We're all ready? Thank you. Welcome. We are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pay respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Oki, and welcome. So I'd like to begin with the consent agenda. So the consent agenda is in front of you. Is there anything that needs to be pulled? Seeing none, we'll move on to an approval of the agenda. I know that we have a couple of items to add. Christina, go ahead.
I'd like to add 10.1 international trip fees.
International trip fees.
Yep.
Sorry, where was that? Under.
Can I put it as 10.1?
Oh, you want to put it as 10.1 and move down?
So we'll
Correct,
bump
yeah.
all the rest down.
International trip
Yeah.
fees.
Just prior to the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then Christine Light.
Then it's 10.9. I would like trustee code of conduct policy.
Any other additions? So seeing that, I would like to have an approval of the agenda as amended. Christine, and those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So next we'll move on to the minutes. It's the approval of the minutes from the April 23rd regular board meeting. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, if I can get a motion for approval of the minutes. Andrea? Just quick. And those in favor? Jenny? That's carried. And there's no business arising from the minutes, so we'll move on to Associate Superintendent Report, Business and Operations. Christine.
Okay, so as always, of course, our first stop on the report is the facility services, and of course, our big item we're working on right now, of course, is the Gary Station Elementary School. So it again is progressing very well. We do have a name for the new K-5 elementary school in Gary Station, but you're going to have to wait because the big reveal is not until Thursday at 11 o'clock. And so that'll take place, and then everyone will know what the new name of the school is. So we're pretty excited about that. We did have at the end of elementary school boundary open house, and we had about 200 people come through the course of the evening. Had an opportunity to take a look at the information, look at some of the options, and then we had a survey related to some of the items from the open house and the options that were presented. There was 448 responses, so it was a really great response rate for this very important survey. And so the School Boundary Alignment Committee is going to take a lot of time to look at that information. We know there's some questions that came out through the survey. We're going to gather some more data. We will be releasing a little bit of information here next month, but most of the data will come later after we've had a really good chance to dissect it and gather more information. So that one. Of course, we had our budget yesterday, so I'm not going to dwell on that. That's the biggie. I just found out a few minutes ago, we had a WCB audit today. Those can be nerve-wracking. We've never had one, but we've been told that they can. And we passed with flying colors, so that was great. So that was thanks to our payroll staff for all the work they do there. And then occupational health and safety, we did have our safety corner this month was TikTok, and it has nothing to do with the TikTok, but actual ticks. And so anyways, really, just reminding people it's spring, we're out and about, just making sure we're watching for those ticks. And we did just launch a survey to our staff. We do it every year about the safety program to get some feedback and thoughts and ideas. And so that closes later this week, and the results will be going to our division-wide occupational health and safety committee in June. And on my page, we have our little three heroes from Dr. Robert Plaxton Elementary School. They won our contest, one of the 2 schools that won our contest back in November, and they got their free trip to the Waste and Recycling Center. They had their pizza party at a different time, but there's some pictures from their little field trip there. So we're happy they were able to go. And technology, I can't say I'm so proud. I have to tell you, May 3rd and 4th, we held the first Alberta Esports Championship for school, high school, middle school students. This is nothing but an amazing feat by a lot of people to put this on. It was several long days for our tech team and their volunteers. An absolute first class event that was hosted and put on. And we received lots of kudos and compliments on the event. The kids had fun. There's lots of energy. And it took a lot to pull this off. The team has been working a long time. We have an evergreening that we're doing with high school and middle school computers this year. And so all their CTS machines were being evergreened. And so we bought them ahead of time, held them so that they could use them for this tournament. And then now they'll go back into the schools. And we had Epson was a major vendor who sponsored a lot at this tournament. We had state-of-the-art equipment, some of it not seen in Canada yet, and we were like one of the first to have it. And so amazing. And, with events like this, there's something always go on, but I have to tell you, the team was grace under pressure and they handled it seamlessly, and the show kept going, and it was fantastic. So a real big kudos. So I wanted to share lots of pictures from the event. There's lots of energy. The kids who came on the first day from our schools, who we had bused to the event just to see what was going on. They had so much fun, and brought there on Saturday when we were there. They brought their parents back, and it was all around a really excellent event. And we're really excited to host it. And I'm hosting the royal we. I was like this much. I was very small part of it, but the lady over there in the corner, Tina, she did a lot of work with her and the team. So big thank you to them for that, because it really put our division on a very proud place in this province for what we can do in esports. Transportation. We were celebrating School Bus Driver Appreciation Day this month, and we each year we get together and we buy a cake. The Southland puts on a barbecue. They got some little cookies and some toques with lights on them this year as gifts, as little thank yous for the work they do in transporting our kids to and from school every day. So, yeah, that's about it. I got some pictures from some events I attended, and it was a good month.
Comments and questions? Andrea?
I agree that the eSport event was just so exciting and really put us on the map. Thank you so much to the tech team for everything that they did. And it was just, the excitement was wonderful to see. One of my kindergarten children was there, although towering above me now. And I said, don't forget you were raised on an Apple IIe. So, so do it proud. And so thank you so much for everything you had to do with the esports. And I also wanted to say that in the facilities report, I noticed so many things that had happened around accessibility. So with Daniel Heaton and you, and so thank you for that too. That's awesome.
Jenny?
My daughter happened to be one of the kids who was privileged to be able to attend that field trip, that awarded opportunity to go to the dump. And she came home, and I think a direct quote was, "Mom, it was actually really cool." I didn't know she was such a tough critic of the dump idea, but she talked about it for 2 or 3 days afterwards. So it went over very well. It was very exciting for those kids. And so what a fun way to help them understand what work we're doing with our recycling, and then to see in real time what we're doing in our city. And so thank you for that opportunity.
Excellent. Christina?
I just want to say thank you for the engagement you've done for the school boundary review. The being at the open house was really informative for me as a trustee, and because I've not been involved in the committee, so it's sort of coming in and out of the process. And I remember we had talked about some of the goals we had around engagement, making sure that we spoke to like specific groups who were very impacted potentially, as well as opening it to the large community. And I think that you really struck the great balance, and people were really interested to see the different options that the committee had come up with as potentials to be considered. And the process of engagement was really thorough. So I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Thanks. I plan to talk about it in my division highlights, but I'll talk about it here since you did bring up the bus driver appreciation. Never miss an opportunity to appreciate the people that get our kids to and from school every day. And next year, there's going to be a lot more of them on the road. But the one thing that I wanted to highlight is that we had a couple of our bus drivers go up this past weekend to the bus driver rodeo and win some top 3. So I don't know all the details, but I think just thank you to our drivers for all that they do and them taking their job with such passion that they'll even take their weekend and go up and do some bus Olympics. So thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, we'll move on to instructional services. Morag.
Thank you. And really, as you can see from the upcoming events or events that have already gone and continuing to present, really busy month for us. Kind of sewing up tab ends, getting committee work done, and still continuing that dual credit work as well as report card committee work. Just drawing your attention that May 22nd was our second annual Digital Wellness Day. So it was a way for the day. So really encouraging schools and teachers to unplug and connect. And so Kaysen and Sydney had a lot of time promoting that activity. An exciting little tidbit from Spanish Bilingual, and Robbie's been very closely connected to us on this front, that we are working on hiring our first Spanish teacher from Spain to come and teach in Spanish Bilingual for the year of 24-25. So we're still dotting the I's and crossing the T's. The ink isn't quite dry yet, but really excited about that opportunity. Erin Herkett has been super busy with report card committee work. Her last meeting this year will be on the 12th. They've been looking at various templates throughout Alberta, just looking at what kinds of reporting appeals to where we are moving in the division. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with in their committee. As you all know, because we have some pretty connected people to kinder care and promotion of kinder care on the board, we now officially have, drum roll please, 20 Nicholas Sharon students and 9 students at Senator Buchanan who are interested in registering at KinderCare. So those numbers are coming in, and we're really excited to be able to provide that opportunity to make the programming for those kindergarten students an all-day program. Indigenous education saw a couple of you at the grad. It was amazing. 35 plus students who were graduating at LCI Gym throughout the division. I think it was, I keep saying it every year, the best one I've attended. So put together, and the students and the families obviously were absolutely over the moon happy with the event. And I have to say, I'm very proud of the team and what they accomplished. Yeah, and there's just some pictures in the back of what we did on wellness, the Digital Wellness Day. Thought that'd be fun for you to see some of the images of the activities that the students were doing, that the Digital Wellness team was a part of. That's it in a nutshell.
Thanks, Morag. So questions or comments? Andrea.
I just have to give a shout out to KinderCare, and those numbers are just warming my heart. So I'm so happy to hear those. And I do wish that I'd been at Indigenous grad, but I was away. But I know that it must have been beautiful. So thank you for everything that you do.
Christina.
I want to say thank you for putting in, it's like the top section of your news and updates around the College of Alberta Psychologists piece. I think that's sort of one of those like boring but very important sections that I really appreciate you informing the board of to help keep us up to date with sort of the regulatory nature of your work. So, because I didn't know that. So thank you.
I could just quickly touch on that one because, oh, I am still on. Haha. Yeah, it's one that is percolating for us. Really, I think it celebrates the genius that Gen Day has in creating those partnership teams between teacher counselors and student support workers at each school, because moving forward as the Alberta College is looking to regulate counseling staff in Alberta, we recognize that there's some work that some of our staff have been doing that is not necessarily what regulated staff members should be doing without direct supervision from a member. So yeah, there's going to be some really busy work that we'll continue to do in September, and just, I think, helping staff understand boundaries around social emotional supports and delivery, and what does an appropriate supervision model look like when we're delivering social emotional services in our schools. To me, it's something that should have happened a long time ago. In British Columbia, they've been regulated for over 25 years, and I think it's something that we know mental health is really, really widespread and needs to be addressed and supported appropriately. And I think it's a good move in sort of the direction of supporting us with clearer boundaries around what is appropriate service and supports in our school system. So yeah, thanks for noticing that, Christine.
Jenny. Oh, sorry. Hey, Jenny.
I just wanted to thank you for the update on the work that Erin has been doing with her team in the report card committee. That's something that, as I've been a liaison at different schools, I've heard conversation around at our school council meetings, and I've heard conversation from parents at other schools that have had conversations with their principals or their vice principals, and I've been able to hear so many positive things about the work that is happening at each level, as they've been really, this has been an involved process and something I think that people have been really appreciative to have that engagement in. So thank you for the work that is being done there, and shout out to Erin, because she's really been quite involved in that, and it's been a complex process and one that we appreciate. Thank you.
Christina.
Sorry, I just had a follow-up. For the counseling piece, maybe we could just ask more for information and come back as you continue to learn more, because I'm really interested to know how it all works, because I know especially locally, we have a number of educators who went back and did like educational, like their master's in I don't even remember what it's called, master's in counseling, but under the education hat, right? And so I know this is likely to impact us in terms of delivery, and I'm really interested in scope and the environment of education in terms of being therapeutic but not therapy and those types of things. So I'd be interested in more information as you learn more. Thank you.
Warwick.
Sorry, I didn't want to be a blabbermouth today, but just going off of the report card comment, thanks, Jenny, as well, just wanting to remind you all on Thursday, if you're not going to be at the Indigenous Awards event, we also have the Diversity and Inclusion Table event where we'll be we'll be able to explore with parents how ISPs, or instructional support plans, are informing parents around the progress of their child with exceptionalities. I think, similarly to the report card process, we want to really be accurate and informative with our parents around student progress and achievement. And just because a student has an ISP doesn't mean that we change how or what we want to hear about achievement and progress for students who have exceptionalities in an instructional support plan. So looking forward to that lively conversation. We have 68 parents who are going to be there, and we'll be at the LCI Learning Commons. Yeah, so it'll be a great event. Thanks.
Thanks, Morag. And that was actually where my comment was going to be. It's been certainly a long time in the works for that to happen with the ISPs. I know that there's many parents in the inclusive education community that have been wanting this, and it'll be a great session to learn more and to be able to see what things can be done different and what we can inform parents of how they can be involved in different ways. Unfortunately, I already had a prearranged session that I'm booked for in Calgary, so I can't be there, but hope all goes great, and I can't wait to hear next month how it went. So seeing no other comments, we'll move on to Robbie with Human Resources.
Thank you. I've submitted my typical report, but I do have some additions, and the reason that they weren't included is they've been updated as of yesterday. I did want to provide a shout out and congratulations to Mahalia Petal from Gilbert Patterson. She represented our school division very well, despite the ultimate winner of Zone 6 being from Grasslands. We are proud of Mahalia. We're also proud of all of the teachers that have successfully moved on into continuing contracts with the Lethbridge School Division. And thank you to the proud showing of Lethbridge School Division at the Edwin Parr banquet. I think we were represented well. And Christine, you did an amazing job co-hosting the event. So I'll move into some of the numbers relevant to staffing. These numbers do not include teacher counselors or administrators. These are teachers. So the total number of continuing contracts offered for next school year, so that would be this current year's probationary contracts being offered continuing contracts into next year, were 55. 49 of those were full-time continuing and 6 were part-time continuing. The total number of teacher postings we've had for next school year are 73. So 47 of those are probationary positions, 26 are temporary thus far. We continue to move along with filling some additional probationary and temporary positions. We've had 4 successful teacher transfers move within the division. So that's teachers currently on continuing contracts that have been successful gaining other opportunities at different schools. We've had 23 resignations, teacher resignations, this school year. So not in the last month necessarily, but this school year, there's been 23. Retirements for this school year have been 17 total. 5 of those which decided to take the voluntary retirement opportunity. In total, thus far, for 24-25, we have 10 teachers in their first year. 4 probationary, 6 temporary. I think that about covers the updates that we've been, and some of the information of what we've been up to the last month or so. And I'll take any questions.
Questions and comments. So I have a question. The first is the 5 under QP 2843, the 5 hires, you say they're leave replacements. So those are like mat leaves or leaves that they're coming back from.
Medical
Medical
leave,
leave.
mat leave, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
So
good.
that would be like a temporary replacement hire.
Okay. And then you just spoke, did you say that 23 teachers left our division?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So I have a question. This is totally operational, so I don't need to know the details, but do we do exit interviews when people are leaving, or do we know what some of the reasons are that people leave our division?
Yes, we do. So I'll clarify. It's not a formal exit interview. It's quite an informal conversation, and people are pretty forthcoming with the reasons why they go. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then just want to say thank you. I see on here the job fair and resource fair. So thank you for going out and being in our community and recruiting and letting people know that, as we all know from our budget stuff, is that we're the 4th largest employer in the city. So I think it is important that we're out there and letting people know that we would love to have them come join our division. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh.
I'll just do one last plug for we had the photo contest, so we're continually trying to come up with creative ways to get our staff more engaged in knowing what benefits they're provided. We have an amazing benefits package for our staff in Lethbridge School Division, and so one of those was a photo contest for all schools and all staff to engage in downloading their profile in Inkblot, which is our EFAP program, our family assistance program, as well as downloading the mobile app for ASEBP, which just streamlines staffing ability to access their benefits with the app. And so congratulations to Westminster. They really enjoyed their soup and sandwich lunch on a very rainy day in May.
Excellent. Thank you. I have a question about that because I think that that's fabulous. I sit on the ASCBP board as an observer, but is that a contest that came down from somewhere? It was just us, you being creative to come up with that to get people involved. That's awesome.
Correct. Yes. And I'm going to give a shout out to my partner, Rhonda Oss, because we teamed up with that.
Okay. Sounds good. You're okay if we share that at Zone? Because I think that that might be a great place for us as trustees to share. Just, we pay a lot of money into benefits and we want to make sure that our staff are using those benefits. And I think when we talk about staff wellness, this is a big piece of that, is ensuring that they're using EFAB, that they're knowing what ink blot is and all those pieces. So if you're okay with us sharing that, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Jenny?
Just listening to your report, all those staffing annual statistics tells me you've been very busy, a lot of interviewing. My question is, how do those numbers look when we consider typical trends? Was there anything atypical this year in those numbers? Would they be considered on trend?
I don't have exact comparisons, so I don't want to make assumptions, but from talking to colleagues in the HR office, it's fairly typical and on trend. There's not any huge anomalies happening. Unless, Mike, you'd like to add to any of that, but I didn't see any blips in any of the numbers by comparison to last year, other than our administrator hires this year.
Excellent. So we'll move on. Thank you, Robbie. Next, we'll go on to our superintendent reports. The first one is the board priority report. Mike.
Sure. And as per usual, I'll just kind of hit some highlights, but if you got some other questions that I missed, then by all means at the end, be happy to answer them, or somebody around the table will be able to answer them. So yeah, I actually had highlighted Erin Herkett and her work with the report card committee, so I don't need to belabor that. I know that's already been discussed, but certainly important work. And how do we provide feedback that's meaningful, not only to students, but to parents, but is also as consistent with appropriate assessment practice and those sorts of things. So that'll be part of the journey that we're on. Then skipping over to priority, growing, learning, and achievement under literacy, second bullet point there. Just an example of working on, says continued focus on developing resources and content knowledge on morphology as related to new curriculum for teachers in K to 6. So about supporting new curriculum and specifically about how words come together, how the building blocks of words work to help students and kids develop those literacy skills. Under numeracy, you can see that Michaela has done a numeracy PL at Coalbanks and then was at General Stewart. And again, a lot of work on new curriculum. That's an ongoing conversation. It's going to be something for the next couple of years that we're going to be focusing a lot of time and resources in on the division. And that will ultimately have a benefit for our staff and students. But as a reminder, anytime we're bringing in new curriculum, it's always really challenging. It creates more work and creates some uncertainty. But there's also really good opportunity to look at practice and change things up as well. Then if you scroll to sort of the end there, a little further, Christina, experiential learning. Lethbridge College has developed some STEM kits, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, where lessons have been correlated to go along with science and math concepts, again, for K to 12. And definitely there's a focus on new curriculum there, which is really good and certainly nice to have that partnership with Lethbridge College. Always value our post-secondary institutions. Then if you keep scrolling, I was going to go to the esports event here. Yeah, it's right there. It has been discussed, so again, I won't add too much, but just a wonderful, wonderful event, really well attended, and the work that went into making it happen was incredible. The experience for our students and students from all over the province, and even from outside of the province, was pretty amazing. So thank you to everyone who's involved. Early learning, I just wanted to note that last point. The welcome to kindergarten events that are going on. This is a big time of year for that transition for families families and for kids. And so there's a lot of that happening in the schools that we don't always necessarily see, but it's, you know, we're busy still doing the work of this school year, and then there's all that additional work to prepare for the next school year. So it makes things busy, but those are the kind of events that I think make your heart sing and get you pretty excited when the little ones are coming in and they're excited and ready to come to school. Then under Indigenous education, again, we discussed this, but the graduation on May 21st was really well done. Great event, something that I think we can be very proud of as a division, and obviously proud of the accomplishments of our students. And again, thank you to everyone who put in so much work to organize that. Then we're skipping all the way to supporting learning and well-being. Just wanted to highlight one more time the Galbraith modernization, that's moved to the planning stage, and that's really important for our division, something that's well deserved. We're looking forward, and I know the board will continue to advocate to get that project complete and get that modernization done, because that's what that school and that school community deserves. So appreciate all of your advocacy, and we'll keep rolling on that. So with that, those are some of the highlights, but if you got any other questions, be happy to answer them.
Questions, Jenny?
Thank you for those highlights. Just looking at the highlights of the grade 6 curriculum and the work that's being done to support new curriculum rollout and planning around that. Can you speak to our grade 6 achievement exams and what that looks like with the new curriculum implementation this year? What do the exams look like this year?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, although I stand to be corrected on this, I believe that that the PATs for grade 6 this year will be sort of a pilot. Is that correct, Morag? Do you remember? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a pilot this year. I can certainly check that and make 100% sure. But I believe that that it'll be because it is new curriculum. So I believe there is an announcement. I'll have to go and check and make 100% sure, but I believe it's going to be a pilot this year.
Can I just follow that
Go
up?
ahead.
Is it a pilot being administered in all of our classrooms, or would it be they would make select choices of classrooms? That when you look that up,
I'll check the
can
details
I
on that.
ask that detail and
Yep.
then just how we're factoring that into our grade 6 learning and if they're doing a pilot, are we using that as a mark, or what is that looking like for our students in grade 6?
Yeah, and I believe I know, but I'll make sure I get the correct information for you and then share it with you. Yeah, thanks.
Other questions or comments? Andrea?
I'm busily humming the Welcome to Kindergarten song in my head. I can still sing all the words. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the teachers and whole school staffs for making the kindergarten children and their parents feel welcome. That's their very first step into the door in many cases with their oldest child. And right away, when everyone comes out and they go through the centers with their little bags and do all the activities and get their CD of the song, it just really makes them start out on the right foot. So just a shout out to the schools that welcome the kindergarten kids that way. Thank you.
Christina?
A couple pieces. Just wanted to very sincerely congratulate Morag on her award, receiving the 2024 PhD, this Physical Health Education Canada Impact Award. I think the way that you champion physical health and well-being in our division and clearly across Canada is very appreciated and noticed. So congratulations. It's a big award. Yeah. And also I wanted to just highlight, we all wear many hats as board members. One of mine is that I offer newcomer services in my other universe, and recently got to attend a community conversation on supporting immigrant youth, and which was pulled together by the division. And we had service providers from across the city in all sorts of different sectors, post-secondary, language instruction, obviously immigrant services, but also like a number of others, like the library. It was, and I've congratulated everybody I've seen along with, like, the best inter-organization meeting I've been to in a really long time. It was extremely effective. I felt like we really opened up some channels on supporting newcomer kids, and it was the type of leadership that even as a trustee that I'm looking for from the division, in terms of recognizing that schools don't have to do it alone, even when it can feel really hard, and that there's lots of resources in the division, and not just sitting at tables, but pulling together the table to make sure that that happens for kids. And so as both a service provider and a trustee, I was really grateful for that day, and the work that was happening on behalf of the school, and similar, like, different types of leadership that I see in this highlight around sitting on like the youth advocacy advisory table, things like that. So being part of those like big conversations that make systemic change through partnerships. So sometimes community conversations between agencies are not that fruitful, and they're just a little bit challenging, and you're like, oh good, glad we spent a whole morning together. But I legitimately am very happy we spent the morning, and I think we really found some new channels to support young people. So congratulations to your team. I already thanked Jackie. So
Any other? We are good. Thank you. So next is donations and support.
Yes, so like we usually say, just really grateful and appreciative of the donations that we get. A number of donations there for Nicholas Scher and a donation for Gilbert Patterson, and really appreciate the the support that the community gives us. We're very, very fortunate that way, and it helps our students get some pretty amazing experiences that they might not normally get.
Comments? I just want to say about the Indigenous Medicine Garden at Nicholas Sharon. They showed me some of the space that they're gonna do that in, and they're just so proud of the work that they're going to be doing with that. And so for them to get the grant is pretty special. So I look forward to seeing that all come together, and it'll be nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
And next is acknowledgements of excellence.
Yeah, so again, I'll just kind of go through, hit a couple highlights, a few things that stand out. So with Wilson Middle School, like I've said before with our middle schools, you can just see the range of opportunities that our students get, and to have a whole bunch of experiences, not only within the classroom, but outside of the classroom. I heard of a really positive comment when Wilson Middle School was up in Edmonton from a community member that had sent an email to the school just about how well-behaved, respectful the kids are. And this was somebody, just a community member up in Edmonton. So just a really nice feather in the cap of the students and certainly the staff that were involved in that trip. And then, you look at the Buffalo Rock teepee camp outside of Fort McLeod. Students get an opportunity to spend a night sleeping in a teepee and participate in educational programming. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty awesome opportunities at Wilson Middle School. So then we'll go on to Coalbanks, and each school is unique and puts its own kind of flavor on things. With Coalbanks, as we well know, an incredibly popular school serving a quickly growing community neighborhood there. Some really nice information on the success their students have had in some of the literacy and numeracy areas, and some real focus on high achievement, certainly appreciated, but also in combination with some real innovation. If you look at the Learning Commons makerspace over there, they really try and do some innovative things. Once the enrollment changes a little bit there, they'll have more space in their building to do some more of those creative things. You can also see esports in there, starting to go into our elementary schools, which is pretty cool. So yeah, a nice mix of student achievement, but also being really innovative and using technology to be innovative. Then we'll get into Senator Buchanan. Senator Buchanan, one of the things that always stands out to me as Senator Buchanan is their ability to bring the community in to support their kids, to support their staff, and really just wrap around that community. And that stands out very, very clearly in this. And if you know anything about Senator Buchanan, then that's pretty obvious. 700 bowls of Kona ice at a community event. I don't have stats on that, but I'm guessing that's a lot of Kona ice in one event. Yeah. you know, and it was neat that they talked about their grade 4-5 leadership council, because over the years I've had an opportunity to see the work of their leadership group, and it's always top notch, very, very highly engaged leadership group there, and they do a great job of cultivating that leadership at the school. They talk about their circle of courage as their character development, and then of course, you know, their universal lunch, breakfast, and snack programs. So very, very proud of those, and for good reason. Another example of really supporting the community and bringing people in to help them do that. So they certainly do a wonderful job of that. That's it for me, unless there's any questions.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, school graduation 8.4.
Okay. Yeah, the dates are there. There's some service award dates as well. They all tend to happen at the same time, so that's one of the things that we'll need to organize. But again, obviously the grads are an important part of what we do at the school division. We had the LCI grad on the weekend, wonderful event. Unfortunately, a couple of them do come into a little bit of conflict. We've got Chinook and Emmanuel Christian will be at the same time on the same day, so we'll have to split up our resources a little bit. But looking forward to being part of those, and I know the trustees are very, very committed, as is executive council, the leadership team, to getting to as many of these as possible. That June 26th day, as you can see, gets a little busy, and so it's not always possible to get to everything, but we'll get to as much as we can.
And I'll just add that as trustees, it is something that we, in the last couple of years, have certainly made that commitment to, that our end goal for all of our students is for graduation. So for any and all trustees that can come to any of the graduations, it's a priority for us. And those lists have been handed in to Kristen to make sure that the schools know. But we will be out there to celebrate as well the hard work of our students and their families to make it to graduation. So thank you. So next is school liaisons.
Yeah, so we pulled it out of the fire, and we think we have a liaison list for the 2024-2025 school year. So we were able to kind of massage that to get it hopefully just about right. So what we will do is we will send this out to schools in the near future here, so they know who the liaisons are for next year, and they can start to share all the things, wonderful things that they have going on, get in our calendars so we can actually attend. And I just wanted to say, in terms of the liaisons, this is a really important part of our stakeholder engagement process, and it's a great way for all of us to be intentional about getting to schools and being part of various events at the schools. And so yeah, really appreciate the work that everyone puts into this. It can be a lot to get to and fills up a lot of evenings, but it's certainly well worth that time. So that's it, unless there's any questions on it.
No questions, just people can expect to see that posted in the next, like by end of the week, or just because it's not in the package. And I certainly have had people asking, what school is everybody going to? So by the end of the week, it'll be posted, or what would work?
Where does it get posted?
It goes on our school liaison list on the website. So Garrett knows the spot that it goes, and it would obviously highlight that it's next year's. But I think if it can go on the list in the area that Garrett wants it to go, along with this current year's list. But so does that work to have it by Friday? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just making it.
He'll have it up tomorrow, he's saying to me, but I just know that people are going to ask me after the meeting. So if I have an answer, then
yes,
we're good.
It's always good to take one more look at it and make sure. That's always why I'm like, next couple days.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So next is calendar of events.
Yeah, and I won't read them out to you. I know the board's really good at if there are things that we're missing, adding them in. Obviously, later this week, we've got our Inclusion Parent Roundtable and Indigenous Awards, unfortunately, on the same evening, but we'll work through that and get to as much of that as we can. If there's anything you want to add, let us know.
So just of note that the 30th starts up at the Diversity Inclusion Parent Table is the 30th, and then Indigenous Award Nights is the 30th. So the 30th just goes up a little bit on that list. But if anybody's looking to, I think you all have those dates in your calendar, because it's lots of us juggling those things around. So we're good. I know you just got sent some more events at school, so we've got a busy June ahead of us. Okay. Perfect. So we're just going to check to see if our timed people are here, and if not, we will carry on with our agenda. Okay, so we are going to bump ahead to 10.4. We'll start at the list there and wait for our esports people and our international trip people to come. Pardon me? Go ahead. Christina? We'll wait to do 10.1 till we do our international trip piece and fees. Okay. So Mike, what were you going to say?
I do have a little bit of information on your question, Jenny. I was able to just text Aaron Herkett really quickly to make sure I had my understanding clear, and I can later give you more. But so yes, they will be. So the PATs are being piloted with the new curriculum. So we have some grade 6 teachers that are going to field test the PATs. So it's a new version of the test, and so what they'll do is not an official PAT, but they will have schools write it. Then they get feedback on the tests and the process. So it looks like GS Lakey, Patterson, Wilson, Senator Joyce, and Manuel Christian Secondary School will all be doing some field testing. Some schools are going to use the Veretta new digital platform to do the field testing, and some are going to use paper copies. Results are not going to be made public. They're going to be just for assessment quality, and teachers and students can also provide feedback to Alberta Ed on the test. They're not mandatory and they're not counted for marks.
Jenny?
You said who? Did you say parents or students can provide feedback?
Oh, if I said parents, I was mistaken, and I might have, because I was going through it fast. Students and teachers can provide feedback
teachers.
about the test.
Okay, because parents aren't going to get the results, right? They're not going to be made public.
Correct. They're not going to be made public. Yeah.
And so is it all of our classrooms in each of those schools, or just some of our classrooms in each of those schools?
Just some. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome. Sorry, I didn't have it on hand. I just wasn't 100% sure.
That's okay. So we will go to 10.4, and this is more ag. And then we got to find a trustee that's going to read everything.
Where's Doug James when you need him? Hey? Okay. So yeah, yearly we always go through approvals, locally developed courses for our middle schools, that's including grade 9, and then our high schools 10 through 12, a little bit of a different approval process for both. Tyler's rubbing his eyes just gleefully going, I just can't wait. This is my favorite part of the meeting. So yeah, just the background, Alberta Education requires that all locally developed grades 6 through 9 courses be authorized for use by the Board of Trustees. As the middle schools and high schools have expanded their educational opportunities for students, and as you can see, there's some pretty cool new options that our middle schools have rolled up their sleeves to try and create. Aaron Herkett has worked closely with the secondary schools to develop course outlines and student learning outcomes for each course. Although the courses are categorized by school, it's recommended that the courses be approved for use in all division schools. A full description of all requested courses is attached below. And the Board of Trustees, it's recommended, approve the use of the above locally developed grades 6 through 9 courses in all division middle and high schools from September 1st to August 31st, 2028. So September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2028. And that's that 4-year renewal cycle.
Excellent, thank you. So now we need to move on to the recommendation for the first one. If there is, Christina?
I just have a question. So who or how is it maintained around like the ones that expire and that we don't renew?
We do it. We keep
You
track of it
just have
here.
one big giant list.
Does that mean, Christina, you're ready to read?
That's probably me. I can do that. Okay. Well, then. Oh. This one's just all in one, right?
This one's just
Yeah.
one. The next ones are not what you want to volunteer for.
I don't, I think I did it last year too. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the use of the locally developed courses grade 6 to 9 in all division, middle and high schools from September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2028.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Morag, you're up next.
All right. Yeah. Just getting organized. Lots of papers and juggling for me to pay attention to. Okay. Next one is for our high schools. So we have lots of locally developed courses that we need to work in conjunction with Alberta Education to access. And Alberta Education requires that all locally developed senior high courses, grade 10 through 12, be authorized for the use by the Board of Trustees, including the renewal of past acquired courses set to expire. Division high schools have requested the renewal of all current expiring courses, as well as the addition of some new ones. We ask that the Board of Trustees authorize the use of the following locally developed courses in all division high schools to enhance program offerings. Now I just need to find the recommendation. So recommendation that the Board of Trustees authorize the use of the following locally developed courses in all the division high schools to enhance program offerings to students for the years indicated below. And so those are all the courses. I won't read through them because you'll be reading through them all together when you approve and move to accept them.
Sounds good. And we do need to do each of them separately. Okay, so we are going to get started on those. And then after we're done that, we'll have our first presentation. So Christina is jumping at the gun. So she's going to read the first statement and then the first one, and then we'll just move through. And the first one, you read the first bullet and then we vote on it, and then read the second bullet and we'll vote on it. So,
All right. I move that the Board of Trustees authorize the use of the following locally developed courses in all division high schools to enhance program offerings to students for the following years. The continued use of Biology Advanced 35 LDC 3202 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
perfect. So the first one's on the floor. I'll open it for any questions or comments. Seeing none, I won't ask for the next ones. If you have something, just put up your hand as soon as she's read it, and otherwise we'll just whip through these. So those in favor, and that's carried. Go ahead. Just the bullet should be good.
The acquisition of Biology Higher 25 LDC 2428 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2027 to enhance program offerings to students.
Those in favor, and that's carried.
Acquisition of Chemistry Extension 25 LDC 2350 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2027 to enhance program offerings to students.
Those in favor, and that's carried.
Acquisition of Chemistry Higher 35 LDC 3350 for 3 credits until August 31st, 2027 to enhance program offerings to students.
Those in favor, Jenny, and that's carried.
Continued use of Dance Performance 15 25 35 LDC 1299 LDC 2299 LDC 3299 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Those in favor, that's carried.
Continued use of Directing 2535 LDC 2468 LDC 3468 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Those in favor, that's carried.
Acquisition of ESL Expository English Level 115 Level 2 15 LDC 1271 LDC 1276 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to enhance program offerings to students.
Those in favor, that's carried.
Continued use of ESL Introduction to Mathematics 15 LDC 1350 for 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Those in favor, that's carried.
Continued use of English Literature 35 LDC 3169 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide continuance of program offerings to students.
Those in favor, that's carried.
Acquisition of Reading Development 15 LDC 1311 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide enhanced program offerings to students.
Those in favor? That's carried.
Acquisition of Reading Foundations 15 LDC 1296 for 3 and 5 credits until August 31st, 2028 to provide enhanced programs offerings to students.
Those in favor? That's carried. Last one. Okay. How many are there? Well, these are the trips.
With my kindergarten.
So we are very excited to have our esports provincial champions with us today that we get to celebrate. This has been a long time coming to have esports, this competition, and to bring together players from across the province. You guys know I spoke at the event. This is definitely close to my heart. So I appreciate all the work that you guys have done, as well as our staff, to ensure that this event happened. But to be able to provide these certificates to get today to our students to recognize the provincial champions that they are is amazing. And just that to show that we can showcase esports in our division. So we are very happy to present our certificates, and we're going to have Cam read the names as Mike and I hand out the certificates. Did you want to say?
Yeah, I'll say a couple words. We can bring Will up too. Yeah. So very quickly, I'm Mike Nightingale, Superintendent, Lethbridge School Division. I want to echo Allison's comments. Congratulations. Any opportunity to win a provincial championship is one that you'll remember for the rest of your life. You have the hardware to show it, and it was pretty neat being at the esports event and watching you dominate. You did an excellent job, and we're great ambassadors for the division. So really appreciate it, and thank you to everybody who made that happen. It was an incredible event.
I won't make up here too, because some of these are his student. Yeah. Okay. This is Mike.
Don't do you? Yeah. Matthew Fedoric. Gavin DeJong is not with us right now. Gabriel Gorner. Gill. I don't know how to say your last name, Rocco, but that Dagoni. Oh, yeah.
Cade Frazier. Parker Healer. Alex Brecken.
It's like me either.
And Agreem Padel could not be here today.
Congratulations, Mike. Will, call you up. Will Kellett, congratulations. And Cam Finley.
Anything to do with the Alberta Summer Camps? You know, have you spoken about that? July 3rd.
You're up first, so I'll just introduce you.
Like right now?
Yeah, you have perfect timing.
Oh, that's so raised on an apple too. And I heard him say at the e-sport event when I walked away, I was like, that's my favorite teacher.
Oh.
I was like, don't forget, you were raised on an Apple IIe. Like, I mean, the oldest computer knowing was a man. That's okay.
Talk. Okay. So we have, next up is our international trips. Those that weren't at the meeting previously, we did add an agenda item 10.1. So we kind of bumped everything up. So 10.1 is international trip fees, and Christina Larkin's going to speak to this.
And sorry, Sam, I was gonna try to do it before people sat up there, so this is not about you. But the board has seen a number of international trip requests over this past year, significantly more, I feel like, than last year. And so I'm a huge proponent of international travel as part of educational experiences. I was an exchange student. I did international trips in high school. It was a huge part of my academic development. For example, I got to go to on like a modern languages trip to practice my French as a French immersion student, and it was a great experience. But just also in recognition of the conversation we're having around the cost to access education, I'd like to request that the administration, when they are reviewing the process for developing and communicating school fees, that they also consider international trip fees as part of that conversation. And I would leave that recommendation open to the interpretation of administration in terms of what that would look like in terms of maybe inclusion in the fee list or recommendations on whatever. But I'd like to see that considered as part of the fee process.
Jenny?
Is that an action item for the board? Is that coming from the full board? What is that? Because the fee list I looked at had the international trips on it. So I'm just looking for clarity on what exactly it is that we're asking for.
I guess I would just like when we come back to the board with the fee conversation around, because we've talked about like transparency and rationale and limits to what we kind of want to see for fees. I would like the ability for this board to discuss with administration around the topic of international trip fees. Like it'll be on the list, but I'm bringing it up because it's on this agenda, and we had a conversation about it at the last agenda as well.
Okay, Jenny and then Christine.
I'm just looking for clarity in what it is. Are we directing them to do something or are we asking for conversation? Just this coming under action items, so I'm wondering what.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think it's not actually an action. I don't think like it is on the list. I think I'm just bringing it up as a discussion before we start this section of that. International trips continue to be on the agenda, which is wonderful. I'm just asking for when it comes back through the fee piece. Yeah.
Okay. You have something down.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly review that. Certainly part of the process. Because each international trip is going to vary depending on where they're going, the cost of, flights and jet fuel and accommodations at the time, the type of offerings they have at the location. What we could certainly look at even a separate type of when we talk about doing a form related to fees and outlining what's included in this fee. We could have something related to international, and then also what fundraising are you planning for to mitigate fees? And we can have just even a checklist for them to have at least more information so the board can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. It's not necessarily like an action item because it is, I would say, on the list. It's just discussion on this topic as it's been on the agenda. Yeah.
Do you have more to add or you're good? You're good? Okay, sounds good. So perfect. We will get right to you, Sam, for our New York LCI trip. Go ahead. Or Morag, did you want to introduce first? You're good? Okay, go ahead, Sam. You've been here before.
Okay, thank you for your time. The LCI Gold Symphonic Band has a pretty significant and singular opportunity to perform in Carnegie Hall in New York City for next year. This is off the performance that they had last year in Anaheim, California at the World Strides Festival that they had there, in which they performed extraordinarily well. And with that performance, they were recommended to perform in Carnegie Hall for next year. And so this is what I'm proposing. The cost per student is approximately $3,000. Throughout the year, even currently, we have ongoing fundraising opportunities for the students. And I hope to establish even a scholarship program in which I will be soliciting donations from community to create kind of a scholarship fund for students who would otherwise, even with fundraising, be unable to attend this. So my hope is that as many students who want to go will be able to go to this, notwithstanding the significant cost of this. So the dates proposed are from Wednesday, April 16th to Sunday, and possibly even Monday, April 21st, if we travel kind of like a red eye, returning back from New York City on Sunday, April 21st, that we'd be arriving very early mornings, Monday, April 21st. And just as a note, Sunday, April 20th is Easter Sunday for next year. So the Friday, April 18th would be no school. So these students would really only miss up to 2 days of school. Any questions?
Questions, Christina?
Are the performances viewable online while they're performing?
This one will not be. Unfortunately, because we live stream all of our performances. Because this is under Carnegie Hall, they will be, and they do enforce no live streaming, no recording of any sort, which is quite unfortunate. I was there earlier this year to preview this. And the attendance at Carnegie Hall were in full force, enforcing So unfortunately it won't be, but we might record audio for it.
Jenny?
I just wanted to say congratulations.
Thank you.
And congratulations to those students. That is such an extraordinary opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, really exciting, and just really love to be able to celebrate our students that way. And then my question is, I love what you're saying, what you're telling us about this scholarship program idea. Fantastic idea. I know you probably don't have the details hammered out, but if you're willing to tell us a little bit more about that, that's
Yeah. So having been here for 6 years with Lethbridge School Division, I've had a number of parents of alumni who've donated. So they would be my first, very top of the list to be soliciting funds from and seeing if they could donate for any students who can't quite make that expense. So private donors would be my first go-to at the top of the list. And then from there, we would be going to local businesses. Yep.
Andrea?
Your itinerary looks amazing, and congratulations. With your performance, will you be able to hear other choirs from other cities?
Yeah. So the format for this, World Strides is the one who I guess leases the hall for the day, and they have 3 different performance segments, and we've already established that we'd be in the 10 a.m. to 12:30, and I think we share the program with 4 or 5 other groups, and they're all the groups are pretty high caliber high school groups as well. All of them will be instrumental, so they'll be either other concert bands or symphony or string orchestras. So, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Looking to see if, go ahead, Mark.
Thanks for all the work on this, Sam. You always put a lot of attention into your permission click submission. We're trying to be really transparent and thoughtful around payment of the supervisors' trips. So how many supervisors are going to be covered by the fund that the students are paying?
To reduce the cost per student, there is only going to be one that's going to be fully paid, and that's going to be mine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is unfortunate for the chaperones because the chaperones are coming on their own time and, of course, their own money. I usually have part of the chaperone fees subsidized, but in order to get this cost down around $3,000 per student, the chaperones will be paying full price as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing no other comments or questions, there's somebody would like to make this motion. Christine.
And before I make the motion, I just want to say this is a phenomenal opportunity. And Sam, I thank you for your intention to try and keep the costs down. I know when you talked about the scholarship opportunity and wanting to ensure students that couldn't afford it could be included, I just think that is so appreciated. And I think especially since this same troop of kids went on an international trip 2 years ago, that's a lot of funding to raise, right? And so I thank you for that care for students. So I move that the Lethbridge Collegiate Institute trip to New York in April of 2025 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Jenny, go ahead. Yep.
Before we vote on that, it's unique, the approach to have our chaperones not be funded, and I appreciate the intention behind it as well. Just with that unique approach, my question just was, what ratio of chaperone are you able to still have ratio to students with those chaperones having to fund themselves?
Like the division policy ratio is 1 to 10 on stuff like this. My preference is 1 to 7, 1 to 8. I project about 55 students coming, and I've already had Like I've never had a trip where I've had so many chaperones come forward to want to join this. I think my list right now currently stands about 15. I don't think all of them will end up coming, but I do anticipate about 10 chaperones, which will put it at about 1 to 5 to 6.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good work on that. Thank you.
So there is a motion on the floor. Are there any more questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Enjoy New York and have fun with our students.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear about it.
Could I just add?
Yeah.
Stuff like this would not be possible without support. From at the admin level at my school and up to here. So I am so grateful. All the way from my level as a peon at LCI all the way up to here, I am so grateful for the support that I continually receive from the school board and from my school administration. So I just wanted to leave that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Mr. Vatcher. Yeah.
Share the mic. We can.
Yep. Just pull that up on the screen. Then you can go ahead whenever, Gord.
I'm here with Jesse Gamble, a teacher here at LCI. We want to do a social studies international trip to Europe next April. The dates were, we have a little video actually we wanted to show you because Jesse and I made this in our basement with claymation. So I hope you quite enjoy this.
Yeah, the video will cover our proposed itinerary. It's something we're going to use to market it to our student population. Yeah. Oh, it looks, oh, there's more than one screen. Oh, that's good. So we put that together as a way to kind of market the idea of the itinerary of this proposed trip. There's a lot of layers here. Traveling in Europe, it's layered. It's like lasagna, I like to say. Obviously, the primary objective of this trip is it is the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. That coincides with a lot of amazing things that happened. The liberation of the Netherlands and the end of Nazi fascism in Europe. I think kind of the big takeaway, similar to what Christina was saying, is to actually give students an opportunity to go and see and smell and witness and touch and experience, I think is the highest form of education. I'm a social studies fanatic. It's a bit of a problem, but that's okay. But for me, a trip like this is a sensational opportunity for students to go and experience this history. It leaps off the textbook. The curriculum outcomes for this trip are numerous. It's all over Social 30 and Social 20, and even that global connection from globalization and Social 10. So we wanted to put together this trip to give students an opportunity from a multitude of grade levels at LCI to build new connections, not just internationally, but with each other as well, fostering that inclusive nature of our school. You bond through travel with all the people that you go with, and I think a trip like this is second to none. So the big thing with this trip that we really wanted to focus on, we know there's a lot of trips going on. There's New Zealand, there's Iceland, there's New York. So a focus for myself was trying to create a dynamite customized European excursion, almost like a road trip over 10 days, that could be accessible to as many students as possible. So we worked really hard negotiating between the two travel groups, EF and World Strides. We've gotten the cost down to about $5,060. I'm very proud of that number. I think we're going to hit a lot of different places and see a lot of amazing things for that cost. And we're setting up various fundraising initiatives as well. And this is very common from all the trips that have been proposed, is fundraising, fundraising, fundraising. We know things are expensive right now, but I think our objective is not just to lower the cost for the sake of lowering the cost, but lowering the cost as much as we can so we can bring as many students from as many different backgrounds with us. That to me, as someone from a middle-class family, that's huge. Those opportunities are huge. And this is life-changing. It's something that opens the doors. The world's a lot bigger than the Highway 3. And something like this really blows the doors open on those curriculum experiences. When we learn about these things in the classroom and you go, I went and saw that. That's amazing. So for us to understand with this particular trip, there's a lot of different layers that we have to kind of go through. So we are looking to move forward with our final negotiation between EF and World Stride. That's a conversation we'll have in a couple days here. The things we're going to go through, well, priorities for me as well with these companies as well as the safety of our travelers. So first and foremost, for complete transparency, I wanted to look at the travel advisories for Europe. And presently, as it currently stands, there are warning advisories for every single country that we're going to: England, France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Germany. The cause of that travel advisory seems to be associated with a terrorist attack in Moscow. There's a lot of layers here to unpack with that too. Poland, for instance, which neighbors Ukraine, does not have a travel advisory. So kind of unpacking the circumstance here, I'm confident that such advisories will likely be lifted come that time. It seems to be a collective EU response when one of these things occur. I don't have any issues or concerns with that, but I did want to forward my worries onto both travel groups. I asked them a lot about their response to COVID-19. Obviously unprecedented. And both of them walked me through how they managed to protect students, get them home in a timely fashion. And that is the new norm for them. So they have adjusted their response time to such things. And I'm very confident with both travel companies that they will prioritize the safety of our students before anything else. They have international offices, easy access, 24-hour access to phone calls and hotlines. The tour guides have the itineraries set out, and they know what to do should anything happen, because we don't know at this point what could happen really anywhere. So I'm happy to hear that, and I'm very put at ease for that. I did receive information from the board, from Christine, about travel insurance. Cancellation insurance, obviously top priority as well, because again, we never know. It is a long time away, but I think those go well. And right now we are just booking our buses for potential, obviously, travel back and forth from Calgary. That cost will be incorporated into the overall fee, but it looks like it'll be around $50 per student. At max, with numbers that we're hoping to take, we want to take a cap of 42 students with a 7-to-1 ratio with chaperones. That way, if we keep it under 50 students going, it'll accommodate every bus that we can book over in Europe with an additional seat for the tour guide. Once we go over that amount, you start to talk about double buses. It gets a little more complex. So I think for simplicity, hopefully aiming for a 7-to-1 ratio with 42 students, I think that'd be fantastic. In addition to that, fundraising initiatives, Gordon talked a lot about school-based fundraising initiatives, having some food trucks come. That can lower the overall aggregate cost for everyone. We also want to partner with the Legion, cadets, and actually get some local veterans to come and share their stories with students as well. Interestingly enough, our local MP, Rachel Thomas, is the Shadow Minister for Canadian Heritage. I have reached out to her for any connections for fundraising or sponsorship or even just veteran connections as well. MP Kevin Waugh from Saskatoon as well. His son works in the division. Reached out to him. He's also working with Member Thomas as Shadow Cabinet Minister for Canadian Heritage. So there's a lot of really interesting local connections that I'm hoping to dive into. Galt Museum, Lethbridge Military Museum, I'm hoping to build some kind of partnerships with them here as well. So lots of those kind of initiatives. In terms of generating interest, we haven't released the video yet. I didn't want to move too forward with not planning trips, but broadcasting the trip and reaching out to parents and making those connections without board approval. But I did put together a pre-marketing intent survey. It filled up very quickly. We have about 40 students that have declared their intent that they would like to go on this trip. I think once we get proper marketing and everything else like that, I think we'll see those numbers perhaps go higher than 42, at which point, if we are beyond capacity, we do want to check in, give students to submit a form of an application, perhaps write a paper as to why they want to go. The last kind of thing that I think is important in terms of this trip is something that we've developed locally at the school called Adopt a Veteran. It's a fantastic activity, fantastic research project developed by Mr. Dave Fletcher at our school, where when we visit some of these sites, including some of the cemeteries, students will get an opportunity to research who these people were. The amount of information you can uncover is absolutely stunning. Meeting someone from Lethbridge who's no longer around and then getting an opportunity to visit their gravesite. So I think for us, there's lots of layers here in the trip. There's medieval sites that we're going to pass by. There's World War I trenches we're going to go see, and lots of World War II participation activities, as well as, of course, the liberation of the Netherlands, ending in Berlin with tie-ins to the Cold War as well, with the fall of the Berlin Wall. That's our itinerary.
One other follow-up activity that the kids will do is they will present to the school the following Remembrance Day. And my first year at LCI, that was quite impactful, and having students speak about their experience overseas and sharing it with the student body when they return is pretty amazing.
Thank you for everything that you shared with us. Questions or comments? Christina.
Thanks so much. There was lots of information. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the thoughtfulness in how you'll integrate it into learning. That sounds like a really great idea to speak about it afterward, and the creative ways you've thought about fundraising. Just a clarity, the package that we have says $4,500 per student, and you mentioned maybe 56. So I just wanted to confirm where we are sitting.
It's it's $5,060.
Yeah.
Plus the $50 probably to transport the kids to Calgary. Part of that was our itinerary, I think, changed by one day, and working with the companies. Kids will miss approximately 2 days of school leading into the spring break.
Jenny.
How many places in the world can we put LCI students next April? This is a great presentation. Thank you, and a fantastic initiative to take these students to these places with such an important purpose behind it. My question is, with the cancellation policy, probably more of a question for Christine. Does that cover the trip as a whole or the students individually? Like if an individual student has to cancel?
Yeah, it's individual students.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by individual, and I believe it's, I can't remember the number now. I think is it 5,500 I think we have?
Yes.
50, we just upped it. It used to be 4,000 a kid, so it's now 5,500.
Okay.
And it's got a pretty good cancellation policy now. There are some exclusions, but it's been beefed up a lot. And I think there's $1,500 for lost luggage, and it's a pretty good plan then. And it's blanket, so the division buys it, and then we don't worry about it. We have a card. If anything happens, they have a number they call. Like if a kid, for instance, loses their eye when they're thing, you can call immediately and they'll tell you where the best place is to get that figured.
It's quite the example.
Because that's the example that was given to me. That was the example. Let's say, no, but let's say that,
No, appreciate that.
No, because an eye is a very sensitive thing. And so you call that number, they will find you the best place to get that taken care of, where depending on where you are, and they will arrange that and look after you, which is really important from a liability, is that you've done everything you could to help that child out. So sorry,
I appreciate
sorry
that.
for the
No.
graphics.
That's fantastic.
We hope to have better supervision than Christine Lee's mentioning.
No, I had been asked that a couple of times and actually wasn't sure the answer, so I appreciate that, that information. Thank you. My question was, as far as chaperones go, is the cost for those chaperones covered in the fees? And are you taking staff? Are you taking parents? Who are you taking for chaperones?
So we're going to go staff. We're going to move forward with staff, trying to incorporate in our French immersion department as well. I don't speak French, and if we're in France, I'll need help. But I think apart from that, with the 7-to-1 ratio and 42 students, the cost would be covered for that. So at absolute max, the chaperone fees would be covered by that fee. If we do go down, if we don't make the full 42, because I mean, an intent form is one thing and committing and paying a deposit is another, we're willing to go down to more of a 6-to-1 ratio, I believe. And that obviously will have to be a response to that. But if we do go down from that maximum number, then chaperones will have to pay a portion of their trip. It will depend on how many decide to finally sign up.
Morag?
Because our policies say 10-to-1, we've given counsel to other folks who are organizing that we follow that for payment, if that's what we're going to do. So we'd be paying more than what we should be paying for accompanied staff, because the ratio should cover really, I guess, 5 staff members.
Okay.
In that, right? And then, yeah, I guess the other piece is we have not traditionally approved at higher risk travel, and London and Paris being two of those places that I've kind of said, let's have a backup plan. I think the Iceland trip that's coming is one that chose to change. What's your backup plan if it's canceled or if it doesn't change an advisory?
Well, there's a lot of fluctuation in terms of what the itinerary can be. That's been the nice part about this as well, because I've really been worried about a constituency plan, because you never know. Both companies have been very receptive to come up with alternative entry exit points or change the internal portion of the trip. The particulars of that would depend on what situation we were facing. I do believe alternatives can be made up to 100 days before we take off. So a reasonable amount of time. Again, with cancellation insurance, I think ultimately, if we don't feel safe to go, we're not going to go. And that's why we have that insurance. And obviously you don't want students or anyone to go on a educational trip and not feel safe. So that's a big priority for me, along with trying to make this as reasonably priced as we can.
Jenny?
Sorry. I had a question along that same lines. I remember there was a similar trip. Was it 2 or 3 years ago? LCI went over to World War II sites. Was that 2 or 3 years ago? And at that time, we were concerned France had a yellow advisory when we were looking at it. But they weren't going into any major cities at that point. So what is, I know we looked it up last time, but what is our policy as far as yellow warning, caution, travel advisories go?
The United States has a travel advisory on at almost at all times. So you can look at most countries do because of the nature of depending on what's going on at the time. It's when it moves from a not recommended. So there's caution to not recommended. And when it says not recommended, that's when you're not supposed to go. But when it's just a caution, because there's cautions in a lot of places. So that's how we kind of gauge when we look at it.
So when it says high degree of caution, is that typically the wording? There's
Yeah,
not
high
different
degree of
degrees
caution.
high-
Yeah,
okay.
But
that's-
when that site, that Canadian Travel Advisory says not recommended, then
Right.
that's when.
Okay, because I think France has been a yellow for
Yes.
years.
Forever.
Yes.
Years and years.
Yeah, forever. And the United States has it.
Right. Okay, that's
Yeah.
kind of what I thought.
And
but
as
just
I
wanted
mentioned
to make sure.
before, Poland does not, which neighbors Ukraine. So I mean, yeah, the context is key. So yeah, it's a great question, and I do appreciate the flexibility of going to Europe. We'll drive around that country, you know.
Thank you. Other questions? Seeing none, looking for somebody that would like to make the motion. Andrea.
The Lethbridge Collegiate Institute trip to Berlin, Amsterdam, Paris, and London in April 2025 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried.
you
Enjoy
very
your
much.
trip. You sound very passionate about it, so I can't wait to
Thank you very
see
much.
all those kids jump on board as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Ireland trip.
Of course, I gotta follow the guys that created a video. Tough act to follow, and I do not have a video. I apologize, but yeah, Winston Churchill Bulldog Rugby Program would like to request board approval to travel to Ireland, April 17th to 27th of 2025. Over the course of my career, I've had the good fortune to be involved as a group leader as well as a traveler on a number of international student travel activities, including rugby tours in 2010 to Wales, 2013 to New Zealand, and 2016 to Scotland and England. Great experiences, all of them, and then also helped run a couple travel clubs to Portugal and Spain in 2012, and 2015 Greece and Venice. So had a kind of a wide range of opportunities to travel with students. And I can honestly say the learning opportunities for students through international travel are so unbelievably valuable. And quite honestly, being able to experience travel through students' eyes has been some of the highlights of my career throughout the last 20 years. So I'm hoping we can make this trip work. And I've provided you with the itinerary. If you take a look through it, you can see that we've hit a large number of the major kind of focal points of Ireland, where we're using a company called Azercan. They're out of Edmonton. They helped our boys basketball trip that just went to Australia here this past year with some flights and things. And we also have a staff member or two that have done some travel with this company as adult travel groups. And they've indicated to me that they're second to none. They've been outstanding trips. They take care of every little detail and that sort of thing. So you can see the itinerary. It's hitting all the major landmarks. We get to kiss the Blarney Stone. In terms of immersing kids into the culture of rugby, which is kind of the point of the trip, no better place to go than Ireland. They're one of the top 5 countries in rugby right now. And obviously looking through the itinerary, we've included a lot of rugby in there, including 3 games that our boys would play, as well as a professional match, training opportunity with a professional coach, tour of the Ireland Rugby Museum and some of those types of things. Not to mention some of the other additional things like a Celtic Games opportunity. So there's a day built in there where we get to go experience some other sports as well. So it's not going to be just rugby, but also some other activities and other sports focused as well. So I think the itinerary that Azarcan's put together is outstanding. Lots of tours, side tours built into the price. And speaking of the price, you can see the price is a total of $54.95. So understanding that that's obviously a fairly large expense, we've tried to create a pretty extensive fundraising plan. So the one thing I'd like to make note of with that cost, it includes 2 meals a day. So extra spending money should be fairly limited for the boys. The other thing, when we go on rugby tours and when we have in the past, typically we do a kit as well. We do a clothing kit where you have a training top, a warm-up suit, rugby jersey, etc. And we're gonna try and minimize that, but this company also built that right into the cost. One thing I really kind of made a note of over the course of my career and going on some of these other tours and kind of taking feedback from other schools that have done tours is I really want to make sure there's no hidden costs. And that number there is the number, right? We don't want to have all of a sudden 2 weeks prior to the trip, oh, we need $300 more from each of you. I don't think that's fair to the families. I don't think that's fair to the kids. The other thing I've noticed happen sometimes is, oh, we're on a tour and we need tour money to tip the tour guide. So now I'm going to ask for €20 each from the students. Well, now I'm taking money away from their spare money that they had for the trip. I don't feel that's fair either. So when I put this number, that's the drop dead number. Like that's not going up. And the way we're going to kind of avoid from having that happen is through our fundraising. So we have some different fundraising opportunities that I've kind of drawn out on the one page there. And the way we've always kind of done fundraising for our rugby tours is a percentage of it goes into our general fundraising fund for our tour account. And that's where that money would go towards, tour guide tips. It would go towards the ground transport from Lethbridge to Calgary to the airport and back. So there's not going to be those hidden costs that kind of pop up to students and then parents are ticked off after we get back saying, hey, this actually cost another $500 and you didn't tell us about it. So that being a higher number, I understand that it's still tough for a lot of families. It's tough for a lot of parents to kind of fathom that number. But I believe we've created a fundraising plan that should help offset that cost fairly significantly, depending on how motivated individuals are. And hopefully that'll be, in hopes of keeping it accessible to as many students as we can. So going through the different things that I've outlined there, the one I've passed an example around, and this is a big one we've done for all of our rugby tours, and it's a tour program, and we sell advertising for it. Each student would be responsible for selling a certain amount. Typically it's 2 personal ads and then 1 like business card. And then that money usually goes into our tour account. So that's to offset those costs, as well as when I talk to a few people, the percentage that's charged by School Cash Online, because we don't want that to all of a sudden bite us in the butt as well. So we've taken all those things into account. That tour account, like I said, would cover all those costs. So they would sell those 3 advertisements, and then any they want to sell on top of that, half page, full page, which are going to be worth more, then those would go specifically to their fundraising account, and that would offset their individual costs. So if they're motivated, they can pay for a fairly good chunk of their fee. If they have money and they don't really care that much, then obviously they can sell the minimum and then just be done with it. So in the program, you can see that we outline all the players. It makes them feel pretty special because they have a program. We hand them out while we're on tour. We give them to any businesses that support us. A dentist's office, put them in the waiting room so people can look through them and things like that. And everybody gets a kick out of them. I might need to bring Toby Boulay back to do the write-ups on each of the players, because if you read through any of them, they're pretty humorous. So that's one thing we've always done and would plan to do again. Another one is a fashion show and dinner. We do a pass the dinner prior to departure and have a silent auction attached to that. Typically, and again, going back to, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, but going back to that kind of tour fundraising account, if we had excess money and we were able to raise a little bit, then we would be able to provide a little bit more clothing. So we might buy a warm-up top to add to the hoodie and the jersey that are included in the travel company's price. So that, because the reason I brought that up is because of the fashion show and dinner, because we're like, well, all we have is a hoodie and a jersey right now, so it's not much of a fashion show, and nobody wants to see me up there dancing around in a hoodie. So they see that every day in the gym. So that's one of the other plans. We usually make a fairly good chunk of money on that, and every student's expected to sell so many tickets to that event. And then obviously we get donations from companies and things like that. Fundraising, t-shirt fundraising. We've always done t-shirts as well. We get a tour logo done up, and then we sell, students would be expected again to sell 5 t-shirts, 10 t-shirts, whatever it is. And if they want to sell more, most of these fundraising opportunities give them the opportunity to do more, and they can just do the bare minimum, but they can do more if they want to try and make more money towards their personal tour. Another one, talking to Azarkan, like I said, they did include a hoodie in that cost. And the one idea they brought up is they can actually provide or put sponsorship on the back of the hoodie. So they said we can have the students sell a sponsorship to a company, and they'll put it right on the back of the hoodie and probably the jersey as well, the rugby jersey. So that's another way we can offset some of the costs. One we've been involved in for a while is Paradise Canyon's been in contact with me for a number of years. Every spring, every fall, they need sandbags put out and moved. And quite honestly, it's a great little team building activity that we do with the rugby or football guys, and a little bit of hard work, which they complain about, but it's good for them and they learn some things. So it's a win-win all around. And then obviously a couple other ones that are kind of just dependent on how it all works out, with some bottle drive activities and the sales. I put beef jerky on there, but it could literally be anything. We'll look into kind of maybe what people are looking at right now. I always put beef jerky because I love beef jerky, and anytime a student comes around, I'm spending at least $100. So I like the beef jerky sales. So those are some of the fundraising activities and kind of the plan that we've set out and we'll put in place moving forward if approved. Because I had the opportunity to sit through 2 other ones, I'm going to answer Jenny's question. And that 5495 does include our supervisors ratio of 8-to-1. So our plan right now is to get a minimum of 24 travelers. So that would be 24 with 3 supervisors to a maximum of 32 travelers. So it's kind of, we also have 2 or 3 coaches that are interested in going, but they've already been told that there probably won't be a supervision spot for you. So if you want to come, you'll have to pay the full amount, and a number of them are interested in doing that. So with those, some of them are kind of younger guys that just graduated from our program the last 3-4 years. So I think they could probably be involved in some of the fundraising as well if they needed to be. So that is my spiel for now. Any questions?
Andrea.
Thank you for being so well prepared around your fundraising. I appreciate you sharing everything that you're going to do. They sound like unique things, and your trip looks amazing. My question is that on day 1, are you planning to meet at the Calgary airport?
No,
Okay.
we would be busing from Lethbridge altogether.
That's what it says.
Yeah,
and
sorry.
No worry, no worry.
The itinerary that Azarkan provided me was a PDF, and I couldn't change anything on it.
No worry. I just thought it was in your
No.
best interest to
Yeah, no.
all arrive at
No.
the same time.
Even during our league games, I don't let them travel.
Okay.
So we go on a bus, so to make sure they're all there.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we would be busing from Churchill straight to Calgary, and then same on the way back.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Christina.
Thank you again. Yeah, I appreciate the organization and lots of details. Is it girls and boys rugby, or just the boys rugby?
This is just the boys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see
we
the
did
last one was the
approach.
girls.
Sorry, we did approach the girls program, but they weren't interested at this time in joining us. So,
Great.
Unfortunately.
No worries. And then I just had a question, maybe just for like our risk side or something. The Sunday, April 20th, is a tour of the Guinness storehouse. Just want to make sure that that's okay, that we're going to a brewery.
As long as they don't sample.
course not. Yeah, we've done on most of our tours, we've included like a winery tour, some of those, and obviously we're watching them like a hawk, making sure they're not getting into it for samples or anything like that. So I was just Ireland, can't go to Ireland and not go to the Guinness place.
Jenny?
My question is, I noticed this is for grade 10 to 12. Do you have grade 9 players on the team?
We do, but we wouldn't be including the grade 9s.
They're just not being included.
Because we can't really get them to commit yet.
Right.
And I'm not sure, but grade 9s traveling internationally is, sorry? I didn't think that was really allowed, but.
Yeah.
Are they?
School,
Oh.
grade 9 to 12.
Okay.
It's middle school that cannot.
We're excluding the grade 9s.
And then my other question was your chaperones, you said you have 3 or 4. Are you taking staff? Are you taking coaches? I know you said there were some coaches who got the axe, but.
Yeah, currently all the supervisors we would have in place would be district staff.
No further questions or comments? Somebody would like to make the motion? Christine?
All right, I move that Winston Churchill High School trip to Ireland in April of 2025 be approved by the board on the condition that all division policies and procedures are strictly followed, and with the understanding that future travel advisories and/or vaccination requirements may affect the trip's ability to proceed.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried.
Awesome.
Enjoy
Thank you, everyone.
Ireland.
Appreciate your time and support.
Thank you. Okay, so we are on to 10.6, which is policy review. I'll give you a second to jump to that. Yeah, I'll give you a second to jump to it. Don't worry. In your packages.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I am still getting there. Just a second here. Okay. The first policy that we are looking at is 609.1 student achievement. And, oh, there we go. I addressed that a little bit in my report, which is part of the consent agenda, but you might have noticed in there that I did address a little bit. There was a change in this policy. So I'll just represent some of the conversation that happened at Policy Advisory Committee around this policy. There was a change in there. We changed the word. If you're looking at regulation 1.3, it says teachers shall incorporate a variety of, and we removed the word instruments and put in the words tools and strategies in assessing student progress. There wasn't consensus around the room for the word strategies. That was a word that there was some concern voiced over, and we didn't have full consensus of using that word. What we tried to do as a compromise was to add the word tools. The conversation around it was mostly about what does this mean? What does this look like? What words are appropriate to try to capture what it is that teachers use for assessing student progress. And so just in the interest of transparency, I just wanted to represent that conversation as we are looking at these changes and bring that back to the board. Other than that, on this one, we're just, we had a little bit of feedback from the public on this one and then went through it as a committee. And you can see the changes that are throughout. I don't think I need to go through and highlight each of them individually. So we'll open it up to discussion around those unless anyone has any other questions for me.
So questions or comments in regards to policy 609.1 with the amendments? Andrea?
I wonder if we could use teachers shall incorporate a variety of assessment tools in, let me see, in measuring student achievement. I'm not, so I do get tools and strategies not really fitting here because It's not like a strategy that you're teaching with. So maybe assessment tools in measuring student growth and achievement.
Would you want assessment tools, or would the word tools be appropriate on its own? Assessment tools.
I would put assessment tools, I think, in measuring student growth and achievement. Could that work?
I'll open it up to the board.
Christine?
I think the context of the conversation was initially it was just strategies. And there was concern expressed that strategies aren't necessarily, they're too flexible, right? And so then tools was put in with strategies. Admin feedback was they use strategies. So it's not just a tool. So a tool is, for example, a specific assessment format, but then there could also be strategies of conversations, of those not as formalized. And so that's why that's where we landed with those two words. Yeah, to kind of capture the larger picture of that. That was the context of that conversation.
Morag?
And I think we remember, assessment is summative and formative. And so tools, sure, we've got more of that standardized writing the test process, but then we also have methodology that teachers use to inform their instruction. So they assess not just for final outcome reporting, but they assess to guide their instruction and shape their instruction, where they'd use strategies to sort of say, okay, kids, self-assessment today. How are you all feeling about your ABCs? Who knows what an A looks like? Show me with your finger, right? And so that would be like a strategy rather than this sort of tool and standardized practice.
Tyler?
I'm good with the way it's worded in that 1.3. In regard to what Andrew was saying, the whole thing, like the title is assessment of student achievement. So I don't want to keep repeating assessment in the thing. So I don't want to say variety of assessment tools in assessing students. Like the whole title is assessment. So I'm good with that. And the less we use assessment going forward, I think the better.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Jenny, are you wanting to make a motion?
I will make the motion. Did I write a motion down anywhere? That the board adopt the revisions to policy 609.1 as presented. Should I say as amended? As amended. Is that the motion? Perfect. Sorry.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Jenny, you want to move on to 5.0? Nope. 10.6.2? Or it is, sorry, 502.1.
Oh, thank
I
you.
was reading on the side of my.
I was about to come up with something.
Yeah, good. I was like waiting for you to pick it up for me.
Hold on. I will see what I can come up with.
I was reading on the right-hand side where it has 10.02.
Yes. Okay. So what we're looking at is 502.1, which is an appendix to 502.2, I believe. It's the appendix to our safe and caring. I should get the title right on that one. It is an appendix to welcoming, caring, safe. Hold on, it's in my report.
Welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning environments, 502.1.
Thank you. There it is. That's one. So it is an appendix to 502.1, welcoming safe and respectful schools. Is that what it's called? Learning environments. And the Education Act requires us as a board annually to review the student code of conduct portion of that policy. And so it was discussed at Policy Advisory Committee, what does this typically look like for our annual review of this? And what level of engagement do we seek from stakeholders in doing that? And what is our typical process? Is the Policy Advisory Committee typically involved? And what we recognize is that typically this is something the board reviews and looks at each year. Not necessarily with all of those steps taken because amendments aren't typically being made, but it was recognized that this one, because we're doing work with a consultant already on our policies, that as we are looking at this one in conjunction with 502.1, the strong recommendation from Policy Advisory Committee was, the strong request to communicate back to the board was the recommendation that we do seek stakeholder feedback and that we do take these policies through that process, but recognizing the work that we're already doing with the consultant to pursue that in conjunction with that rather than go through all of that with the appendix and the policy as they stand now. And so looking at this point to meet our requirements from the Education Act and to have reviewed this one and request the board to accept it as is for this year, and then we will look at it further as that work continues.
Okay, looking comments, Mike?
I'll make a quick comment, and just a reminder, this is the appendix that we looked at the last committee of the whole, and I gave you the information, the 4 areas from the Education Act that we have to review. We kind of went through and said, here's where each of those 4 are covered in the Code of Conduct, so we did review that. If anybody needs a refresher, we can discuss that now, but if you're good to go on that, that's perfectly fine.
Christine?
I was just going to make note, it says it's amended in 2016, 2018, 2020, et cetera. I can't find record of it being amended, so I'm just wondering if we need to say reviewed, if it's being reviewed, amended if it's being amended, but ensure that we note that it's reviewed when that's all that we're doing.
I would agree with that. I think that was noted as well, and that was part of the conversation we had at Policy Advisory Committee, was trying to understand the history of what has happened with this one, and that seems more appropriate that we would say reviewed, and I would be comfortable suggesting those changes, accepting those changes. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, and I did look back, we want to be careful relying on my memory, but I did look back on the May, I think it was 2022, and I don't recall there being any changes, that it was just reviewed. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with all that. I do, when we get to it, have 2 potential minor amendments to it with the Education Act. Not that I want to get into wordsmithing it, but there's 2 old sections of the Education Act that we should probably just update while we're here. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and let us know those? I don't see any other comments.
Yeah. On page 3 of 6, Kristen, if you wouldn't mind just scrolling to it. Sorry, I know we got you doing triple duty over here, taking minutes, scrolling to different places. Keep going. So, yep, stop right there on that page. If you look at 4.10, contravention of the Code of Conduct set in the Education Act, Section 12. I believe, oh boy, I didn't write it down. Okay. Actually, sorry, 4.11, section 27. That should be section 256. I'm gonna have to check on section 12 here. I wrote it down, but I'm not sure I've got it in front of me. Do we want to, do you want to give me a minute to find that really quick? Or do we want to move on?
We can table this and come back to it.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yep. Sorry, I should have had that.
Oh, you're good.
Written down somewhere.
Go ahead, Mark.
One little piece that I think, Jen and I are working really hard with our parents on, who have students who are going through the violence threat risk assessment process. And we really are working hard to not have individuals view the violence threat risk assessment as a punishment. I really would love in number 6 of the appendix to say the following responses to unacceptable behavior shall apply, taking into account la da 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 da, because violence threat risk assessment is not a consequence, right? It is responding to either concern for self-harm or harm to others that a student may or may not have control over, and so it's consequence is a word that I think is very strong, and response is more neutral and allows for us to use that for suspension, expulsion, involvement of police authorities, school-based intervention. Because a school-based intervention doesn't necessarily require a consequence. It can be a result we're responding to. Just a little word.
Do you want to wait still? You're almost there.
Yeah, I've almost got it. If I can somehow switch. There we go. Yeah, I just need about 30 seconds and I'll have the, I think it's section 31 that we need to change that to, but.
Allison?
Go ahead, Jenny.
Just while we're looking there, my question for the board would be, recognizing that we are updating some of those references, would we then prefer to mark this as, instead of reviewed today, would we prefer to update it?
Amended.
We would need to have it as amended if we're actually making these changes.
Do you want it amended then?
If we're actually making amendments, then yes.
And I've got it.
So, yeah. Tyler?
Are we good with the changing of 6? I like that better. What did you say? Response? Not responses. Responses to unacceptable behavior. Yeah, okay. So it's already amended anyway. So we'll find out what else we got. And go from there. Yeah, sorry, it should have been section 31 and 4.10.
4.10 should be 31, section 31.
Instead of 12.
Instead of 12, okay. And then you had said, and 4.11.
It's 256.
256. Okay. And are there others? That's it.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so we have some amendments in front of us. Any other comments? Jenny, did you want to make a motion?
That the board accept appendix A 502.1 student code of conduct as amended.
Jenny, did we want to provide a little bit of additional with some direction to the policy advisory committee take a look at it? Got a potential motion here.
Like, oh, right. Yeah, that's probably more appropriate and representative. Yes, thank you. Do you remember that I have? The board approve, I motion that the board approve Appendix A of Policy 502.1, Student Code of Conduct, as amended with further direction for the Policy Advisory Committee to prioritize reviewing this appendix as early as possible in the 2024 to 2025 school year. This review should include opportunity for stakeholder feedback regarding the appendix.
At the end. Can you turn your mic on and say yes?
It is, but I'm wondering if that's clear. Appendix A.
Sounded like you knew what you were talking about.
It's because I was reading. I think the only problem is when I say Appendix A of Policy 502.1, it sounds like it is the actual appendix. So that the board approve Appendix A 50, because it's actually the appendix of 502.2, right? No, it's the appendix of 502. It itself is 502.1, but it's the appendix to, is it not? Am I wrong? What is it?
The policy itself is 502.1, welcoming, caring, respectful, and safe learning
Okay, then we're
environment.
good.
So then the appendix is.
I don't know
that.
why. Yep, we're good. It's good. Sorry about that.
Okay, so
Kristen, Kristen.
just for the record, you had made a motion first and then you came up with a second motion. So just for the record, can you
Can I
please?
rescind my initial emotion?
Yes,
my
you can
motion?
rescind it. I just need
Motion.
it clear that you're rescinding the first motion and that you are going with this
I'm
one.
actually going to make an amendment. Can I make a friendly amendment to my own motion?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to include and maybe part of the ongoing policy review process of the board. That was a request. Okay, well, that was, when we discussed at the committee of the whole, that was Craig's request that we make note that we do that, but it's something we're already doing, so.
Tyler.
I'm just missing it, so I'm just confused why that is added to the back. What's the purpose behind that? I don't understand it.
It's to honor Craig's request. I'm not sure that it adds clarification or adds confusion. I'm comfortable to. I think he just wanted it to be in motion that we would continue to review this every year, but really that's required by the Education Act. So I'm not sure it's necessary.
Yeah. Doesn't need to be a part of this motion.
Initial second motion.
Not the one you rescinded.
Yeah, not
Okay.
the friendly amendment. I dropped my own friendly amendment.
Excellent, thank you. Okay.
I got this.
So just for clarity's sake, can you please restate the motion?
Sorry, yes.
Clear?
Let me
We're
restate
good.
the motion. Okay, I motion that the board approve Appendix A of Policy 502.1 Student Code of Conduct as amended with further direction for the Policy Advisory Committee to prioritize reviewing this appendix as early as possible in the 2024-2025 school year. This review should include opportunity for stakeholder feedback regarding the appendix.
Thank you.
Again, I raise my question then, why is all the rest of that being added on? Why does it need to be reviewed as early as possible? I don't understand.
Oh, sorry, I understand your question now, sorry.
Go ahead, Jenny.
That was the request coming from Policy Advisory Committee that, because typically we're reviewing this at the end of the year. But they wanted to, because we're pulling it forward and saying, hey, we're going to look at this. And we had that conversation. They said, yeah, this is an important one that hasn't been fully amended for a long time. And they would like to make it a priority that we do seek that stakeholder feedback. But because we're here at the end of the year, it's required for us to have reviewed it. And because we're in that work with the consultant still, it doesn't make sense for us to seek that stakeholder input at this point. But so what the request was is let's do that work with our stakeholders and with the Policy Advisory Committee being involved. But let's wait until we're done the work with the consultant. But they wanted, the request has been just to make that a priority rather than reviewing it to the end of the year. Next year, to seek that full process on this one.
Other comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Jenny. And we have 14 minutes. You think we can get through assurance plan? Let's give it a good go. Okay, so let's give it a go and we'll see where we get to. The division assurance plan is in your package and has been. It's been something that's been available to read through. We have certainly had some opportunity to have some work in this. Asked Mike not to read through it for us, but to highlight a couple of points that he might want to draw our attention to, and then we'll go with any questions after that. So go ahead, Mike.
I am going to read through it word by word in monotone because I think that'll be really helpful for everybody. Yeah, so I'll just give you an overview. You're familiar with the document. You've had a chance to review the final version of it as well. Just wanted to, sort of state publicly, first of all, a huge thank you to all the trustees, executive council, leadership team here in the Ed Center for all the work that they've done to get this where it is today. Our hope is that ultimately this is the beginning in a journey, and we don't think this is the finished product long term necessarily, but it's the finished product hopefully for this year. some things that we changed. First of all, just increasing and enhancing the alignment with the assurance framework and making sure that we're good there. We think we have most of that covered off. Certainly, we meet with Alberta Ed and go through it, and I've already met with them preliminarily, and their first reaction was, yeah, we think you've got the things that you need and looks good. Of course, once they go through the fine tooth comb, some of that may change, but there's always little tweaks and those sorts of things. Another big change is in the local and societal context section. That's one of the domains in the assurance framework. In the past, we have done just a lot of text that describes our division, and that's fine. We still have some of that, but we've taken a lot of that text and moved it into the domain, so it gives a little more context in terms of the things that we're doing. And then we've put some areas of focus in the local and societal context, things that we think are important for our division. They especially come out of the out of town hall. So in terms of our local and societal context, domain areas of focus, division performance measures, specifically student academic achievement, successful early start for students, Indigenous education, having our plan updated, a division personal device guidelines process, reporting of student progress, looking at that, and then staff wellness were areas that we wanted to focus on in terms of local and societal context. So that's a change. It's really a movement and a shuffling and really just trying to align the assurance plan a little more effectively with what we want to do here locally. Then for each domain, we've just changed things up a little bit. So each domain, there are 3 to 4 priorities for the domains. Then there's specific outcomes. Those are sort of developed by Alberta Education, but we've taken them and wordsmithed them and made them our own a little bit. There's strategies and there's measurements. So that's a little bit of a change in terms of the organization of that. What we've tried to do is make it maybe a touch more user-friendly, a little more descriptive of the things that we do in the division, and hopefully, like I say, just a little easier for people to read. And then, like I say, we did move some of the information into the domain. So we've got, there's a more detailed explanation of town hall. There's a little more detailed explanation of early learning, a little more detailed explanation of our English as an additional language programming, that sort of thing. So if people want to do a little more of a deep dive, they have that opportunity. Yeah, and then there's the financials, and that's very similar. Christine and her team and Avis do take care of that for us. One thing that I wanted to make you aware of, we just handed out a sheet here, and we added in whistleblower protection and fraud prevention, identification, and reporting. The reason we added that in, we have done that in the assurance plan in the past. It's not actually a requirement that you have to check off, and I checked with Alberta Ed. It needs to be in your AARR part of it, but as talking with Alberta Ed, we just felt like, well, we've had that in the past, so why not put it in there? But as we updated the template, that got left out. So we just put that back in, and we'd like to include that as an amendment on page 70, and we've given you, so you know exactly what that looks like. It's just what we've done in the past, so it really just is a matter of continuing to do that. And I think that's wise just to have it there. There's nothing wrong with including that information. It's a good check for part of our assurance plan. So that's it from me, unless people have questions or comments or anything that we need to know. Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
Tyler.
My question would be with whistleblower and fraud prevention and all that. That's great to put in there when you don't have an issue. My question is, because it's the first thing I would key on if I went through this, and there were three disclosures of wrongdoing or whistleblower protection. There were 6 disclosures of fraud prevention. I'd want a lot more information on that. So if there was something there, what's the next step? Because to me, that's where people are just going to be asking a lot. Like, it's great to say there were, we had 6 incidences of fraud last year, but I'd be like, well, what does that mean? What is that about? Where did it come from? Like, there would be way more information. So more to me, I don't know where we're at on that and what we can disclose and what we should disclose. Like, to me, it almost, if it doesn't need to be there, it almost shouldn't be there, because if something ever comes there, then there's going to be all kinds of questions and things about it. And then a lot of that stuff is certainly whistleblower. It's all private. So I don't know what we do there.
Christine.
Yeah, well, so an example that kind of something similar as an example on our audited financial statements, if we have any let's say, we call it contingent liabilities, but it's like a legal action that we're currently involved in. You disclose it in a manner that says the board currently has a legal matter that it's dealing with. And then it's like a high level. So in this case, if we were, let's say, we were investigating, let's say, there was a report of fraud. You'd say the division is currently investigating an incident of potential fraud that was reported to the division. You wouldn't say anything else. You wouldn't get into details. You would just say the high level, because it is something like that would be like a legal matter. It's private. Same with, say some whistleblower could be related to somebody whistleblowing on, let's say, Christine Lee might be harassing somebody. And then, so that's, let's say, reported for an investigation. You would not ever say anybody's names because, again, privacy. You would just say a matter's being investigated under the whistleblower protection process or something like that. So it'd be high level, but it's still reporting that we've got something that's been disclosed.
Okay, and that, and that sounds good if you have the odd incident, but like I said, if there were 6 things of fraud, I don't know, it just seems odd to me. If that was there, and it's one thing to say, well, we're investigating something that's going on, but when, we've had 6 disclosures of identified fraud, people would be like, where, what, when, why? Like, why is there so much fraud in the division? So again, it's not an issue when there's nothing really going on or there's an odd case, but I don't know. I just, I don't know what we actually, how we disclose if we have numerous issues, that's all.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and I know.
Do it when we get to it, I don't know.
Yeah, I know in our ARR, we do have to put the whistleblower. That's required in legislation. It's certainly a bit of gray area, and I don't think most divisions put this in their assurance plan necessarily, but like I say, we've done it in the past, so.
Yeah, well, it seems good if we've got somewhere we have to disclose whistleblower anyway, the wording's basically going to be the same there as here, so I guess that's fine. And then fraud. Well, hopefully we just don't have any issues. Move on.
Okay, looking for questions or comments on the assurance plan. Seeing none, I'll be looking for a motion to approve it. Christine.
I move that the board approve the 2024-2025 Division Assurance Plan as presented.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Next is 10.9 Trustee Code of Conduct Policy. Christine.
Yes, so in section 33(1)(k) of the Education Act, it legislates school boards are responsible to develop and implement a code of conduct that applies to trustees of the board, including definitions of breaches and sanctions in accordance with principles set out by the minister by order. And in section L, we are legislated to comply with all applicable acts and regulations. Currently, neither Policy 202.1, Trustee Code of Conduct, nor Policy 202.1A, Appendix A, Trustee Code of Conduct, comply with legislation. Definitions of breaches and sanctions are not included within policy. The absence of this information leads to both non-compliance to legislation, and it inhibits the ability for the board to be held accountable for its conduct in a fulsome and appropriate way. In March 2024, the board began working with a consultant on the policy framework. As this work does not necessarily include the rewriting of policy, and as the date of completion is unknown, amending Policy 202.1, Trustee Code of Conduct, should begin in a timely manner. So I move that the board acquire Colin Fetter of Brownlee LLP to draft a Trustee Code of Conduct policy to bring the board in compliance with legislation.
Thank you. So I'll open it up for questions or comments. Seeing none, those in favor? Oh, sorry, Tyler.
Okay, seems like there's good support for this, so I'll be the one to speak against it. I just think that it's we don't need to spend the money on something like that. I believe that, especially if you look at one of the metro boards, they will probably already have wording in this that has been vetted legally, everything else. And we have a policy consultant retained already. So I don't think that this is so important. It's been this way for many years. I don't think it's so important that it has to be done immediately. So I just think to me, I just think there's better use of the funds than doing that. I feel like we can borrow from another division that's already put it out there and it's in existence. And likely the wording is going to come from where we're going to get it from is where it's all coming from anyway. So I would rather us not spend the money on this and just allow us either the consultant to prioritize that as a number one, number two, whatever it is in the order of doing policies, and possibly get that back to us quicker if we think it's that important. And like I say, basically just borrow that from another place where it's already been done and vetted, because I don't think we're the first board to come across and do this anytime.
Jenny?
I echo Tyler in a lot of those sentiments. I agree. We've hired a consultant already, and our consultation spending as a board this past year would cause me to hesitate for this when we've already hired somebody to do the work. So I would agree that it is something that needs to be prioritized. It needs to be done. It's something that we've been lacking and should have in place, but not something that I would support the strategy of spending that extra money to pursue that way. Thank you.
For me, I certainly want to see us come within to be in compliance with what legislation is. I would certainly be open to hearing another option come forward if it was that we were to prioritize that with a consultant for us to come into compliance quicker, and that could be prioritized. I'd be certainly open to that, but I think that we need to, as governors, we need to operate under what legislation requires us to do, and I would want to see something towards that we would have our consultant put that as a top priority to bring us into compliance. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? And those opposed? And that's defeated. So, Tyler, did you want to bring forward a motion, or Jenny, for it to be prioritized? Do you want the wording?
I don't think actually that we need a motion for this. I think that in our consultation with our policy analyst, that we just tell them that this is a top priority for us, and this is the one we want to work on first, and get it out and make sure it is in compliance and legally vetted that way. So I don't think we necessarily need a motion for this.
Anybody else? I may. Christine?
I am going to make a motion because I want to ensure that this happens. In May 2023, I brought forward a motion to set a subcommittee to work on the code of conduct. That work was paused. It was said it was prioritized by this board. I'm bringing it forward again. I appreciate the desire to not spend fees the way this board does spend fees. I'm a little shocked that $2,000, it feels like a drop in the bucket in what we have been spending as a board. So I'm gonna, in my head, I move that the policy consultant prioritize would it be amending or drafting
Amending because.
The amending of trustee code of policy 202.1, trustee code of conduct, and policy 202.1A, appendix A, trustee code of conduct, to bring the board in compliance with legislation.
Jenny.
I would suggest, I don't know if this would be considered friendly amendment or not, but I would just suggest, I don't think our motion can move the consultant to do anything, that we maybe just need to say we move that the board direct the consultant to.
Yep. That would be friendly.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So we are at, oh, we went past 5:03. I was like watching the clock. Kristen, is there any one for public forum? We're good. Okay, so we have not had a break, but I don't want to jinx anything by saying we're almost done. Are you guys okay with not having a break? We'll carry through. Perfect. So next is division highlights. Christina, you ready? Okay.
Got to attend a couple grads, Indigenous grad hosted at LCI. Always a really wonderful event. So great to see students out with their families and their community to celebrate this achievement of graduation. And sorry, I'm sure lots of people will talk about the same things. Also got to, I got to go first. To bring regards from the board to the LCI grad over the weekend, and congratulations to a huge graduating class. It's incredible to see like half an arena filled with people who are supporting students and their achievement of graduation. And you know, graduations are always special, but I wanted to shout out a couple of kids that I knew in the crowd who were graduating, who I supported in their initial settlement in Canada. And it's just such a privilege to see students succeed in our division, every student has overcome insurmountable odds sometimes to get to that stage. And it's a really special day every time. So thanks.
Thanks. Tyler, you want to go next before everybody takes it all?
It's okay, because I know it's all going to be discussed. So
Yes.
that's good. We'll just moving on.
Perfect. Christine, you ready?
This was a really full and fun month. I hosted on May the 1st, I hosted Mrs. Kish's grade 6 governance field trip from Lethbridge Christian. So her grade 6 social class came here and we set it up and we talked about what they've learned about trusteeship, and gave them a couple of board scenarios. So they made some board decisions. So it was a lot of fun to hear some student feedback and just see them interact that way. I appreciated being given the opportunity to speak at Indigenous grad, and just witnessing the pride of families and the success of students on that evening. Joel and the Indigenous education team is an exceptionally gifted and caring and compassionate group of individuals. And I'm so thankful for their work and presence in our division. And I was also able to speak on behalf of board at the Arts Alive in Welland School's opening ceremonies about a week and a bit ago. And it was really fantastic. It's a fantastic event. So if you haven't gone to SAG to check out the artwork, I encourage you to do so. We have some incredibly gifted artists in our division, and the other 2 school divisions in Lethbridge. And so it was just great to be there and see students supported by their families and just celebrating their achievements.
Thank you. Andrea?
I got to spend a lovely outside day, the Spring Fling Learning Day at Senator Buchanan, complete with petting zoo, games, and rescue dogs. So it was very special to spend a day with Alyssa, my daughter, and her grade 1 class. I got to go to a round dance at Plaxton, and I learned so much listening to Julius Delaney. And the kids were just amazing in how beautifully they listened. I attended the LCI grad, and Christina, you did a beautiful job bringing greetings from the board. Last night I was at the Patterson Parent Council meeting, and a parent was so excited. She was in tears about how her daughter, who had struggled in math, has now flourished with an 86% in math. And she really wanted to share about a resource called Nav Math. And she said, I wish I could give that a shout out. And I said, I will give it a shout out, that resource. So thank you to the fantastic learning that is happening at Patterson as well.
Thanks, Andrea. Jenny?
I'll highlight a few things quickly. One of them being rugby. It's been rugby season, and it's been something I've been able to go and watch a few games of, and been able to see our students work really hard. But also, two of our high schools were able to take home the Southern Alberta League Championships. Our boys at Churchill and our girls at LCI. So congratulations to them. It's fun to watch those kids and how hard they work. Also, some of the work being done, Lakeview is one of the schools that I'm a liaison for, and the work that they do with literacy is something that I think deserves highlighting. They put together numeracy and literacy nights with their families and with their students, and they are very creative in the way they set up stations in their schools so they can have literacy focused weeks as well for their students. And just listening to the conversation around the planning around these ideas, and the ideas coming from kids and from parents and from teachers, and the collaboration happening as they plan for next year and as they reflect on what they've done this past year. I just really love to hear that focus on numeracy and literacy and the successes that they've been having at their school. So just wanted to highlight that as well as the effort they put into. They host 4 family events a year, and really work really hard to create a community for their school and for their students, and are very successful in doing that. A lot of organization, a lot of time, a lot of extra efforts goes into those things, and I'm proud of the work being done there. Also, another one of my liaison schools I'll highlight really quick. I know we can't do everything, but Wilson Middle School received a Community Foundation of Lethbridge and Southwestern Alberta grant for, I'm reading it to make sure I get it right, but it's a grant for their fine arts department, and just proud of them and the work that they do there as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Jenny. So for me, I know it's already been said, but the Indigenous grad, it was just amazing to see the families come together that have supported these students on their journey to the place that they got to graduate, which is amazing. Saturday, of course, LCI grad. Fabulous to be able to be there to represent our board. And Christina, thank you for your words that you brought on behalf of the board. And I had a graduate that I got to be there to celebrate as well, Hayden. Go Hayden. Next, bus driver rodeo. I'd already mentioned it, but I wanted it to be in the highlights that just our bus drivers going to that extra bit to go up to the bus driver rodeo and winning some awards up there. Esports event. You know, I can't not say it. It's on our division highlights. So it was an absolutely amazing event. The staff in our division went above and beyond. They were absolutely exhausted by day one. They handled every complication that came along, including losing internet, having where everything shut down, and they made it through everything. To have kids that were able to go on a field trip to there and say that was the best field trip ever, because we did bus some of our students over for the first morning, and then to meet and chat with parents that had never seen their kids gaming in the way that they got to see them, see their gaming from a different perspective. So it was just great to be able to see that change. And then, of course, we got to have some of our MLAs present and to be able to let them see when Minister Scow walked in and he said, I need to FaceTime my kid. And he got his kid on FaceTime, and it was just like... Yes, he came back on Saturday with his kid. It was to see all the levels of impact that this event had. It wasn't just about the kids, it was about the staff, it's about the parents, it's about our government officials, everybody. So, and then the last thing I wanted to add on, and I'm sorry I've got too many, is our boundary review piece is that we had our engagement session, and I know that that was right after our last board meeting, so we haven't had an opportunity to say, but families came out to share with us, and I think that it was great to have them all come have difficult conversations. For some people, this is change that they might not that we have an answer yet, but it's potential change that is hard for them. And to have families come out and be willing to engage with others and have conversation and engage with us as trustees was great. And the feedback on the survey was amazing to have as much feedback as we did. So I just want to say thank you to all our parents and community that did, and our staff that came out to facilitate that evening, as well as to participate, whether they're a staff member that may be impacted or not. So thank you. So next is board chair report. So the first item is social studies curriculum and piloting. So I have this on the agenda because it has been brought forward over the last month in regards to, are we piloting or not? And I know that the questions out there from a number of staff as well as parents. And I've spoken to both Morag and Mike over the last month, and I just felt that this was a place that we could have the information shared so that parents know, so that staff know. When staff are applying for positions, they want to know whether they're going to be piloting the new curriculum. They need to know what's happening as they go into next year. And then parents, of course, want to know if their kids are going to be experiencing the new curriculum. So I felt that this was a great place for, as trustees, when we get those questions over the next little bit, that we have the answers. And I know both Morag and Mike have the answers to share with us today. So I'll turn it over to, they're going to debate, but they have answers. So, okay, Morag will go ahead.
Yeah, so Erin has worked closely and put the call out to our elementary principals to just sort of say where are we at and who would be interested. So currently we have 22 teachers that have indicated an interest in piloting in 7 schools. And I think, you know, as we continue to move forward, it'd be delightful to have Erin come and update you on how things have rolled out. I appreciate that there's some, some thoughts around this being a second draft and what's the content like. And I know our teachers are dedicated to the craft, and they're passionate about ensuring that our students have an education in social studies. And I'm sure the feedback that they will provide will be really fruitful and good to share with the board as it starts to roll out, probably in October, I'm thinking.
Go ahead, Mike. Yep.
Yeah, and thanks, Morag. I'll just add a couple little bits of context just to make sure we're clear. We're talking about, it's the K-6 social studies curriculum, so elementaries and grade 6 middle schools potentially piloting. Ultimately, what we've done, we did have a conversation with principals about it. In the past, there was a previous social studies curriculum that very few, if any, school divisions decided to pilot. The Lethbridge School Division decided not to pilot it. That was a few years ago. And so this time we did decide that it would be appropriate to pilot it, but we wanted to give people autonomy. So it's not that you have to pilot it. It really is a teacher decision. And there's a few reasons for that. One is there have been some updates to the curriculum. The other one is reading the tea leaves, and from everything we've heard, it is going to be implemented in the future. And so in the next year, and I guess 2025. And so we wanted to make sure that we weren't disadvantaging our teachers or our students. We also felt it was important to have that opportunity to give feedback. If you don't pilot, that's one of the challenges. You don't get an opportunity to say, listen, here's some areas we need to fix. So you know, and you look at, for example, we will have some teachers that choose to do it simply because if I'm a brand new teacher and I'm going to have to teach this curriculum next year anyways, probably makes sense to prep this curriculum rather than prep the old curriculum, then next year have to revamp everything. So there's a whole variety of reasons that teachers will choose to do that. A lot of it is they want to give back to the profession. They want to make sure they have a say in the curriculum, and certainly we appreciate that. But again, there is that autonomy. It's not that we're saying what you have to do. And the government has given more flexibility in terms of piloting the curriculum. If I remember correctly, it's not just required to do the whole thing. You can do a little bit of picking and choosing. That may change because that's a little bit of an odd way to do a pilot, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, so that's it on that, unless there's questions.
Any questions? I appreciate the update. Thank you. And then if Aaron is able to come at a later time, that's great as well. Thank you. Mike.
Can I just follow up earlier conversation about PATs? I did this is related to new curriculum. I did go back and find the email. In early April, there's an email sent out to parents. I think we also sent it to trustees, but I'll just, Jenny, to give my finer point of my comments earlier. So what was sent out to grade 6 parents was this. Grade 6 PATs in English language arts and literature and mathematics will not be administered in May and June 2024. Grade 6 PATs in all other subjects will be continued as planned. So that's social studies and science. So that's what's occurring this year. As you're aware, the school year saw mandatory implementation of new curriculum in English language arts and literature and mathematics for grade 6. In response to feedback received from school authorities, grade 6 PATs in English language arts and mathematics will not be administered this spring. In their place, Alberta Education will be field testing newly developed assessments in these subjects. Field testing will take place between April and June 2024. The process of field testing determines the validity and reliability of questions that are in the development phase. For this reason, field testing results are not reported publicly. However, teachers will have the opportunity to score their field tests locally so they can gain some insight into student growth and achievement. If your child's class will be participating in grade 6 PAT field testing, the classroom teacher or school administration will communicate this information to you. So probably biggest thing I want to let stakeholders know, if you do have questions about that, please make sure you ask your school, because that's really important. But I wanted to just share that because I knew there's a bit of more information and that gives us a little finer detail. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions or comments. So I'll move on. The next is the ASCA conference and AGM, and then the ASCA membership. So we have a requirement when we attend things to bring them back. So I was able to attend the ASCA conference in April. There was some great speakers, including the Minister of Education, and then some breakout sessions. And it was a great opportunity to network with parents and trustees. There was probably almost 40 trustees that were in attendance. So it was a great representation from trustees. Then on the Sunday, we were able to listen and support parents that tried to navigate through the AGM process. That was a 13-hour day. So it was definitely a long day from the start of the meeting to the end. Some of our parents that needed to travel, definitely they were traveling and listening to the AGM as they traveled. So it was definitely a long day, and those parents of our division that attended, I want to say appreciation to them for doing that and carrying forward their school council voice. And then I just wanted, so I had added all the motions that were passed and carried. So all that information is there for anybody to take a look at. And then I just wanted to remind school councils that the board did allow the decision regarding ASCA membership to continue to be made by school councils on an individual yearly basis. So just as you're doing whether it's your year-end school council meeting and you have your AGM coming up in June, or whether it's your September, October agenda, to make sure that your ASCA membership is something that you have on your agenda to decide if you want to be an ASCA member as your school council. And our board continues to pay for those memberships for those school councils that wish to have those. So are there any questions? And then next is my item, as well as the Spanish bilingual program for the high school. I do speak in here about the middle school as well, but it's primarily the high school level piece that, as I think it's high on the minds of parents as they're making decisions in regards to their students with the Spanish bilingual program, and just wanting to ensure that they know where our division is at in terms of what that's going to look like at the high school level. And we have great support in our community for the program to continue, as we continually have students register every year and those students go into middle school. And it's just what's going to happen in 2025 when our first round get to high school. So just looking for some information to be shared, and whether that's here today or if there's plans for the future. I think just for us to have that information and for people to be able to know and hear what is happening and what do you need for support from us as a board, to be able to have that information to be able to share with families and staff. Morag.
Well, 25 grand every year is perfect, which you guys continue to provide. So thank you. It really has helped build the resource base for each grade as we've developed the programming as it's grown. Currently we're up to grade 7 in Spanish bilingual. Unfortunately, that grade 7 cohort, we started with 1 kindergarten cohort, and it has now dwindled to 12 students. So that has been a problem, just in ensuring that we have sufficient numbers to support a robust program. And so we've had to be more creative in programming for that first year cohort. The second cohort following, so the grade 6 group, they have been offered a fully Spanish bilingual program. So I reviewed this when we had our Spanish bilingual evening. Spanish bilingual is quite interesting in how it's offered. So typically it's 50% in the elementary level, so 50% Spanish. Then we move to about 35% in the middle school, and then it gets to 1 course typically, or 2 courses a year, depending on what the high school has identified as a program. Now, Spanish bilingual itself is not offered 10, 11, 12. It is a course, so an enriched course related to culture and literature typically. As I speak with Bill at Chinook, very excited about offering grade 9 programming at Chinook in the following year, but of course we need to be mindful of the number of students who will be interested in accessing an enriched Spanish programming option, and then from there we'll figure out what that looks like. With the number of 10 students, we might need to be creative, and currently Josh Murray teaches some really great Spanish programming over at Chinook, and we'll have to be looking at that, and also visiting some high schools, both in Edmonton Public. Strathcona Comp offers a Spanish bilingual cohort, so they offer 15, 25, 35 enrichment. And then also in Calgary and CBE, there is one high school that offers an enriched AP Spanish programming option. Just really important to also identify that, of course, next year will be grade 8. So for the very small current grade 7 cohort, they'll be going into grade 8, but then we'll have 2 full grade 6 and grade 7 Spanish bilingual programming cohorts at GS Lakey, and that has resulted in us adding a teacher. So Dale from our elementary program has kindly offered to move up to GS Lakey, which I think will really help in providing that collaborative programming piece that I know our elementaries really, or our elementary at Coalbanks really benefits from. The more cultures we have contributing, of course, the richer the programming and the after hours events are. And so, yeah, it would be anticipated timing wise for any parents who are listening, and please don't hesitate to contact me directly or contact Brad Dersch. He'll know a lot about the grade 8 programming that's going to be happening next year. He hosted a night with myself and Joey a month ago. We'll definitely be visiting up to the schools and exploring what that high school option looks like and meeting with the teams up there. And then from there, we'd likely be meeting with the parents of the grade 8 group for 2025-26 in January, February to have an expression of interest
where we get a feeler to see what level of interest there is to determine what the programming can look like.
Thank you for that. I think that that's great to have that information and to know that Chinook is where it's headed. So families will be happy probably to see it stay on the west side. So thank you for all that information. Any questions? Thanks, Morag. I appreciate it. Next on our agenda is our correspondence is there. And now we have a couple of in camera things to go back to. So I'm looking for someone to move us in camera. Christina, those in favor? And that's carried.